Hey everyone. I was running around scrambling, thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm up for alive. All of a sudden not feeling great. Just like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I sat down and looked at my phone. And I have an app on my phone. It's a motivational app that I put on a while ago. And it just gives you a motivational quote every so often. And when I looked at it, you probably can't see it. It says, let's see, can you focus? Okay. You were given this life because you're strong enough to live it. That kind of hit me. Like, okay, we can do this. I got this. We got this. All right, let's go. Let's watch some crazy. So, this is the story. We saw this couple a while ago. Dad basically said he was going to give up his parental rights if he had to pay child support. I put together a short little clip of a recap for you that we can go through while we talk.
I'm gonna have to step out.
Mr. Berta, how long are you going to be gone?
Judge, I can't listen to these false claims and keep having this woman do everything that she said she would never do to me. And she's taking me to the ringer for child support when she knows I don't even have a job and everything. I have legitimate proof of her financial abuse, her domestic violence, everything.
All right, Mr. Berta.
Listening to these false claims, and she's using everything against me. I'm sorry, sir. This is wrong.
Mr. Berta, I'm going to continue the hearing whether you're here or not.
I'm going to be listening, sir.
So he had a couple little meltdowns like that during the hearing the first time. So the judge was very patient with him, let him have his meltdowns, but then pulled him back in and, gave him the information. His main focus seemed to be on her hurting him financially. That's all he really cared about. He did talk a lot about seeing his kids or her taking the kids away, but the biggest thing was then he was ready to sign rights away because he had to pay child support.
All I've wanted to do was talk to my kids since she fled the state. That's all I wanted to do, and she did nothing but conflict with it, and so did my family. And all I've wanted to do was talk to my kids. I don't want to reconcile with this woman because she's done nothing but drive me nuts. I don't want to be with this woman or her family or my family or anything ever again. I'm not trying to seek custody of my children, but I will forewarn you, I will come down to the courthouse and I will sign away my rights if this woman is granted full custody and she tries to take me to the ringer for the rest of my life for child support that she said she would never do. And she vowed and promised that she would never do this to me. And she's sitting here submitting evidence that she's using against me. She premeditated this.
So he had multiple rants like that in the first one, for those of you who didn't see it. And it was all about her trying to screw him over financially. That was the big issue, and he's so upset about that. But on the other side of it, they were trying to get him to get some mental health help, which he refused to do, or he did and then discontinued it. And there was also some domestic incidents going on, which he takes zero responsibility for. All he's doing is talking about this financial stuff.
All right, I have some concerns about the house on Pulliam. So what do you suggest I do with this house on Pulliam if you can't make the payments for the mortgage? It's my job as the judge to try to keep any of your property from going to waste, which would be if it gets foreclosed on by the bank.
I was trying to manage that until the fact that I was trying to liquidate more assets from the property to pay for the mortgage to guarantee that I would not lose it. And I was also going to be putting in more job applications to acquire a job to pay for the house, because this house is supposed to be an investment into our kids' future to hand down to them. And I've done nothing but try to I've liquidated multiple assets to guarantee that. and I have more assets that I can liquidate that are my own personal assets. They are not associated with my children's stuff or also her personal possessions, which I would love for her to come and get. They can come and get all of the kids' stuff. That's fine. I don't care. I want my kids to be happy. I want my kids to have all their things. My daughter's talked to me on the phone numerous times, crying to me, telling me that she doesn't want to be in New York. She hates it. She wants to come back to Texas. They miss me. That I used to fall asleep with my kids every night.
All right.
Ignore the comments. They were all screwed up when I did the video.
Oh my-
Mr. Burt, so what do you think I should do with this house? Do you think I should say that this house should go up for sale so that way we don't have to worry about the mortgage payments?
I mean, listen, if that's what it takes for me to just be done with this woman and she can take her cut, but I mean, in order for this to work out properly, I mean, obviously, like I stated in the beginning, obviously a lower percentage should be going to her because she has a $60,000 Escalade in her possession that she took that is titled in my name. That I didn't approve of her taking and fleeing the state with, just like her brother fled the state with one of my vehicles and got it impounded in Connecticut.
So should I order that the house be sold and then any proceeds from that house be paid into the registry of the court, and then we'll figure it out later who gets what?
Okay, but where am I supposed to go meanwhile? I mean, once the house gets sold, I mean, if I can't get the funds to be able to lease somewhere else or rent somewhere else, or I mean, I have no family in the state of Texas. Everyone,
right. I mean, that's a problem, Mr. Burdett, because if you don't have any money, you can't stay in the house that you're in right now because you can't pay the mortgage. And if you don't have any money, you can't live someplace else that you need to pay rent on.
Okay, sir.
You need to figure out a way in which you can pay money to live someplace, because that's how it works in this world, is you've got to have money to pay for where you live.
If you look, sir, if you look at my financial record ever prior to this, I've never defaulted on a loan. I've always made my payments. I've never
Excuse me, sir, you have to have money to live. So, yeah. But no, it's her fault that he has no money. So he went on about that for a while. And then this is the part I just wanted to show you guys before we jump into the new one. This was his decision at that point in time regarding the TPO and all of that. Oh, the one thing I forgot, I even wrote down notes. Why do I write down notes? I don't even look at the notes that I write down. Jeez. They are in Texas. In Texas, common law marriage is a thing. So they were not legally married, but they had been together for whatever prescribed period of time. I think it might be 7 years. And so it's treated like a marriage. So when they split up, they have to actually go through the divorce process in order to divide assets. So this first hearing was more along the lines of, what are we going to do with the kids, TPOs, things like that. And then the second hearing is going to be more geared towards, hey, let's split everything up. But this is the judge's decision to get things started from the last hearing.
All right, I find that I have subject matter jurisdiction and jurisdiction over the parties in this case. I find that the home state of the children for the purposes of jurisdiction is in the state of Texas. So I have jurisdiction to make orders regarding the children. I find that the following temporary orders are in the best interest of the children. I find that the mother should be named as sole managing conservator. She will be given the exclusive right to determine where the children live. She's allowed to do that within the current county that she resides in New York, or also she can make that she can determine that the children live in Atascosa County if she has any inkling of moving back. At this time, I'm finding that the mental state of Mr. Burdett is not conducive to any visitation with his children. So at this time, I'm not allowing any physical visitation between the children and Mr. Burdett. I encourage Mr. Burdett to get some psychological evaluation, some psychological treatment. So that way in the future, I can order him some visitation between his children. And also, Ms. Santiago, if you want to allow some electronic visitation between Mr. Burdett and the children that you supervise, you can do that, but that's not the order of the court. So in other words, if you want to get them on the phone or on FaceTime or what have you, and to talk with their father, you can do that, but I'm not ordering that. So that'll be your discretion. Regarding child support, I'm going to set child support based on half of minimum wage, as Mr. Burdett is not currently employed. I'm going to order him to pay $174 a month beginning on the first day of April of 2023 and monthly thereafter. I'm also going to order the mother to maintain health insurance to the government medical assistance program. And I'm not going to order Mr. Burdett to pay any additional costs for reimbursement for that program. I'm going to order the exclusive use of the 2017 Escalade to the mother at this time. And I'm going to order the exclusive use, control, and management of the house at 95 Pulliam to Mr. Burdett at this time. However, I'm going to order that that house be sold and the proceeds from that sale be deposited in the registry of the court. And in regards to the protective order, I'm finding that family violence has occurred and is likely to occur in the future. And I am ordering a 2-year protective order with everything that was requested in the petitioner's application for protective order, subject to communications with the children that are allowed by Ms. Santiago, and subject to any further orders of this court regarding visitation and access to the children in this cause.
Judge, I'll blatantly say right now, I'll be there tomorrow morning to file my paperwork to sign my rights away. You won't have to worry about the order of protection, and I'll never go back to New York State. And I'll say here and vouch for that right now. And I'll sign any statements regarding that because I never want to go around these people ever again in my life. I can't believe this. I literally bought my house in September because this woman wanted me to buy it, and now she's literally taking me to the ringer for a paycheck. And now I'm going to be facing criminal charges because of this woman. I can't believe this shit.
All right, Ms.
And
Harkins,
then the
anything else
people
that I need to
are
add?
supposed to be my family that raised me since 2 years old and let
All
my
right,
cousin
Mr.
die.
Harkins, Mr. Burdett, I'm going to put you on mute so I can get some answers from Ms. Harkins.
So that was how it was left in the last hearing. They were supposed to have a hearing in April, but when I tried to find the docket, I didn't see any progress on the case. You all have asked me so many times, what's an update on this? And I did not have one. And the other night I woke up at 2:30 in the morning because I wake up between 1:30 and 2:30 every single morning. So if you're ever bored Eastern time, shout out, because every single morning I'm awake. I look up at the TV that's auto playing on YouTube, and there they are. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell? Okay, cool. Hold on, I gotta get this. So anyways, I found it unexpectedly. Very thankful that I found it, but this is them dividing up the assets, and it is just as crazy as the last one. And yeah, I don't really even know what to say about it. I don't necessarily love putting this stuff up, but it's stuff that people go through on a daily basis, and it showcases a lot of the problems we have with mental health in this country, where he needs mental health treatment, but he wasn't ordered to get it. And lots of times when you really need it that bad, you don't realize that you really need it that bad. So until somebody makes you do it, you don't get it. So what's going to make him do it when he ends up in jail? I don't know. Yeah. Hey guys, once we get like 200 people in here, I'll make Penny like actually lay in the whole bed, like no head on the floor. Exciting shit. All right, here we go.
All right, Miss Batista, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, Mr. Burdett, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me call your case and we will begin. Calling cause number 23-03-0176-CVA in the matter of the marriage of Santiago and Burdett, and in the interest of the Burdett children. And your announcement for the record, Ms. Harkins.
Megan Harkins here for the petitioner. We're set for the merits and we're ready.
And Mr. Burdett, you're here without an attorney, is that correct?
Yep.
And are you ready to proceed?
Yep.
All right, Ms. Harkins, anything in the way of an opening statement?
Yes, please, Your Honor. Just briefly, Judge, just to recap slightly, Judge, we were here back on March 30th for a temporary orders hearing and a hearing on a protective order. And that protective order was granted on that day. And you did order some temporary orders, including my client being named the sole managing conservator, and stating that the respondent, his current mental state was not conducive to having visits. So after that ruling, Judge, you'll hear evidence from my client today that circumstances really haven't changed very much. So she'll be asking for you to keep that same order for the merits. Also, Judge, at that hearing, you ordered that their marital home be sold and the money be placed in the registry of the court. We have an update on that we'll get into today, which is that they will close on that house at the end of this month. And so my client will be asking you to divide those funds in what she believes is a fair and equitable way. But you'll hear that Mr. Burdett did receive a personal injury settlement recently during the marriage, and the down payment on that house came from that. So we'll be litigating that today, and we'll put on evidence of that to show why my client believes she's entitled to a portion of that. So that's all I have right now, Judge.
All right, Mr. Burdett, I gave Ms. Harkins an opportunity to give me her an opening statement. Now you have an opportunity to give me an opening statement, which is basically asking me, before I hear any evidence, telling me how you want me to, you'd like me to rule in your case.
I really don't know, Judge. I'm not an attorney.
All right, Ms. Harkins, you can call your first witness.
I'll call my client, Judge, Ms. Santiago.
All right, Ms. Santiago, please raise your right hand to be sworn. You solemnly swear the testimony that you give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
You may put your hand down. Ma'am, what is your name?
The one thing I forgot to mention really quick, for those of you who didn't watch the first one, when they got into the domestic thing in Texas, she left Texas and went to New York, and she's actually been staying with his family. His family has been helping her and the kids and has kind of pushed him away. So there's a lot of comments about that, but I don't think it's really explained.
Lumi Lianelli, Santiago.
And are you the mother of the children and the wife in this case?
Yes.
All right, you may proceed, Ms. Harkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Santiago, I guess go ahead and state your name one more time, please.
My name is Lumi Lianelli, Santiago.
And are you currently married to Alexander Burdett?
Yes.
And when we were here for the temporary orders, was it established at that time that you and Mr. Burdett were common law married on or about February 14th of 2013?
Yes.
And in our petition, do you have that the two of you separated in February of this year?
Yes.
When is it that you actually moved out of the house, though?
December 12th.
And I know that we covered a lot of this in March, but we need to go back over a couple things as a reminder for the court. So please tell the judge how old your kids are now. And what state are you currently residing in?
New York.
So when you moved out of the house in December, did you move straight to New York?
Yes.
And are you and Mr. Burdett both?
Sorry, when I originally did this, I had subtitles up before I decided to do it as a live. She has 3 kids. 2 of them are like 10, 11 years old, and one of them is like a 10-month-old baby. So she left not long after the baby was born.
December 12th.
And I know that we.
Sorry.
And the day before. And so I stayed at my mom's house, and it was my son's birthday. And in the morning, Alex had showed up, and then he proceeded to get into an argument with me as to why I didn't let him see Noah. And all I had let him know is that he could have just easily texted me that he wanted to see him for his birthday. So as he proceeded to go down the steps, he had pushed me. And when we had finished down the steps, he had basically tackled me for my phone and the keys, which when I was screaming, there was a police officer who lived next to my mom's apartment, and he actually came down and saw the whole thing.
And that action that Mr. Burdett took, did that cause you pain?
Yes.
And are you aware that that case has officially been filed as of June 23rd of last month?
Yes.
And are you aware that Mr. Burdett has court coming up in the next week or two?
No, I was not aware of that.
Now, was that the first instance of domestic violence on the part of Mr. Burdett?
No.
And would you agree with me that the judge did issue a 2-year protective order over you and the children at the last hearing?
Yes.
And has it also come out in the past that Mr. Burdett has been suicidal?
Yes.
Please tell the judge well, let's talk about the incident in the fall where Mr. Burdett exhibited suicidal ideations to you.
Are you speaking upon the videos that?
That's fine. You can talk about those first. Mhm.
Yes, I would get a lot of text messages, videos, him screaming, saying that he was basically going to harm himself, kill himself. There's also been an incident where back in years prior to this, where he had taken a gun or a shotgun. I believe it was something that he was given to him or passed down to him from a family member, and he actually took that outside and told me that he was going to kill himself.
Okay, has he ever referenced doing anything to the family at the same time as harming himself?
Yes, the most recent incident before I had left in December 12th. That incident was an incident that I had called because he took out his gun and pointed it to his head and made the statement that he was going to harm himself and the family. And so I got scared, and obviously I left. The keys were on the nightstand, and when he was walking away, I grabbed the keys, and that's when I had ran out, and I just drove off with the car. And I stopped a couple of houses down, and they let me use the phone so I can call 911.
And what about at the last hearing, did we admit into evidence quite a few text messages and recordings?
Yes.
And did some of those include videos of Mr. Burdett driving excessively on the highway?
Yes.
And do you recall what his statements were in those videos?
I do not.
Okay. Was he threatening to harm himself by driving
Yes.
fast in the traffic?
Yeah.
Okay. Judge, we admitted quite a few exhibits at the last hearing. I don't know if we can have the court take judicial notice of those, or if we need to readmit those. I have a list, but we did it by Zoom as well, so I don't actually know what came of those.
See. 1 second.
Didn't they have them? It's the court file. The Castle and Ghostbusters before the Stay Puft guy comes. That's where she's at.
I don't know. They're not in the court's file.
Okay.
So gray.
There should have been about 10 exhibits. So
Most of us have an X.
I can address that in a little bit,
unfortunately.
Judge. I might
All
need
right.
a few minutes to get organized on that, but I have them all saved. So
All right.
Okay, let me move on, and then maybe we can take a break in a little bit.
All right.
Okay, so Ms. Santiago, so we've talked about briefly, and we'll revisit this once I get the exhibits organized. We talked about some of the suicidal concerns in the fall. Do you have any concerns since our last hearing about Mr. Burdett? Anything that you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
One of my concerns are, of course, the kids. And I had the kids, I made the decision I gave the kids the chance, and so that way their dad, Mr. Burdett, can speak to them over the phone. But one of the things that I found as that was going on is he would say things to the kids that were not appropriate for them to understand at this time. It had included like, do you know what your mother is doing? She's trying to get me for the house, get the house sold. And I've explained to the kids, so I've explained to Isabella and Noah in a way where they can understand what's going on without having to fully give them details, because I feel like at their age level, it's not appropriate at this time. And as they get older and they ask questions, I have no problem letting them know everything. But as far as right now, the way that I spoke to them was in a way that a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old can comprehend. And
That is so important, because kids at that age are so impressionable, and if they start filling their head with negativity, that can screw a kid up for the rest of their lives. And people don't realize that what she's doing, hopefully, if she's doing what she's saying she's doing, is super important.
I just didn't like the way that he was coming off to them, in speaking to them, you know, also asking questions of who is living in the house, just certain key details that I just didn't think were appropriate.
Was he asking questions about you?
Yeah.
What questions?
You know, what is mommy doing? Then there was a time where he asked, is she listening? I just wanted to let her know, you know, that I'm sorry for everything. It wasn't like he called to say, how's your day? How's school? But then after that,
Watch his face. Just, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can feel the anger coming off of him. He hasn't exploded yet. He will, but you can see his face scrunching up with what she's saying. And he is trying very hard not to interject.
it moved into more along the lines of wanting more information as to what's going on, and or just letting them know things that they don't need to know.
Okay, let's clarify something. At the last hearing, did the judge tell you that you would be permitted to allow Mr. Burdett to speak to the children if you thought it was appropriate and in their best interest?
Yes, correct.
So do you recall when it is that you started letting Mr. Burdett do that?
Not too long after the hearing. I believe it was within that a 2-week period. I had to get the phone turned on, a separate phone that my daughter has, that I was going to let her be in contact with her dad. I was okay with that. I made that decision because I still want them to have a relationship with their dad, and I just wanted to see how it went. And that's why I had let him, you know, in the beginning.
Okay, has Mr. Burdett been communicating with anyone else in your household?
Yes.
And who is that?
Teresa Mann, it's his dad's wife.
And have any of those communications been concerning to you?
Yes, he has been making suicidal threats on himself, and also having her tell me things like, let Luli know, and so on and so forth.
Like what kind of things?
Let Luli know that I'm going to see Brett soon, which is old best guy friend that I had in high school who had passed away before Alex and I were even together. And so he made that statement, which made me think that he was letting me know that he was going to be seeing him, as in like be dead.
Okay. What other kind of statements do you recall?
Statements saying that I was the best thing he's ever had, so on and so forth, and that he's sorry for putting me through what he's done. Those kinds of things, yeah.
Any statements about that he will no longer be an issue in your lives, kind of thing? You recall?
I do not recall.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's switch gears and we'll go back once I'm able to organize our exhibits from the past. So let's move to the house, right? So the judge had ordered at the last hearing that the house would be sold. So what is the address of that home? And when did you and Mr. Burdett purchase that home?
August 31st.
Of 2022.
Yes, 2022.
And the deed of trust on that property, is that in both of your names as spouses?
Yes.
Did you and Mr. Burdett make a down payment on that house?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you recall how much that was for?
Yeah, 120.
Okay, 120,000, right?
Yes.
Now, at temporary orders, it was agreed upon that Pete Pavelic would list the house, right?
Correct.
And is that what ended up happening?
Yes, it was pretty tough for Pete. He actually requested extra percentage because of the difficulties he had with Alex, whether it was him stalling out on letting Pete go, take pictures of the house, and just things along the lines, canceling people wanted to see the home, so he had to cancel several times because Alex was giving him a hard time. Alex would just call him and start kind of screaming, and so he let me know that it's a little bit difficult, and he asked for a higher percentage, and I was okay with that.
Well, what percentage is that?
7%.
Ooh. And is the house under contract now?
Yes.
When is it scheduled to close?
July 31st, the end of this month.
Do you recall the agreed sale price?
Yes, 340,000.
So do you know how much equity will be received after the house is sold?
It should be 87,000.
Okay. And regarding the mortgage, so at the last hearing, it was discussed by Mr. Burdett that the house was just going to go into foreclosure. So explain to the judge what's going on with that.
So it is a little slow through the first part while she's laying everything out and laying out the background and everything. But then he spends forever questioning her, and that's where it gets a little tense.
So I have a family member who's been loaning me money for the mortgage, so that way I can have it up to date, and I made payments already on the mortgage, so that way it doesn't go into foreclosure. And so I'm going to be also making payments again, so that way it doesn't continue to go on foreclosure.
And that was for the property?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And so on May 18th of this year, did you make a $2,540 payment?
Yes.
And do you expect to make a similar payment here this week
Yes.
before the house is sold, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess while we're on the house, well, let's go ahead and talk about the personal injury settlement that Mr. Burdett received. What was that personal injury case for? What was that about?
It was a collision that he had with 2 trucking companies.
Two 18-wheelers?
Yes. And so he had to get surgery, lumbar fusion done, and also I believe it was C3 or C4 on his neck.
When was that accident?
I believe it was 2018.
Have one for me, Bill.
Or 19, maybe
Or two.
2019?
Or 10.
Yeah, 2018 or 2019.
Okay, well, let's just say it this way. Was it during the marriage, the accident?
Yes.
Okay, and at the time that Mr. Burdett was in that accident, where?
During the last hearing, he said he had no job, he had no money, he couldn't sell his assets because he wasn't allowed to. They said, well, all you have to do is call Harkins and get permission to sell the assets, because you can't just sell everything, dissipation of marital assets, yada, yada. And so he said he just wasn't going to pay the mortgage. He was going to let the house go into foreclosure. And they're like, no, you can't do that because there's equity in the house. You guys could have a decent amount of money from that.
was he working?
He was working in performance top drives in 3 Rivers.
And did the accident happen while he was working or not?
Yeah, he was working at that time.
And do you recall what Mr. Burdett was making at the time that he got in that accident at work?
Yearly or pay stub?
Yeah. Well, I guess we can start with, go ahead.
It ranged between 50 to 70,000 depending on overtime.
Per year?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know how much Mr. Burdett received in the settlement?
1 million, I believe it was.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Let's clarify. I know you were going to get there, but let's clarify immediately. That was what the settlement was for, but a lot of that went to attorney's fees. And
Yes,
like
so he only received 450,000.
Okay. 450 or 430? Or are you not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever see settlement paperwork on that?
No.
Did you ever receive personally in your bank account or in your hands any of the funds?
No.
Girl, it's gone.
What kind of things did Mr. Burdett spend the money on?
He purchased a Dodge truck for, I believe, $97,000, which is what he ended up trading in, obviously for less value within just a few months after he had it for the Escalade.
What is it with these guys in these like ridiculously expensive trucks? Like, do they do something different than the cheaper trucks that I don't know about? Is there some special feature?
Which he ended up paying, getting it for 56,000 or 50, right around 56, 57,000. I'm not sure how much he got back. I think he got a check back. Never saw the check. I don't know for how much it was. So he also purchased other vehicles, which by the time I had left Texas, he had 7 vehicles on our property. 2 of them, I believe, were parts truck. So they weren't
Why
any
did you
type of,
pay for it though?
huh?
They were what?
Parts truck. So vehicles that you can just take parts from, but he had
Weren't
7
running.
vehicles. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, and then the 120,000 into the house, right?
Yes, correct.
So to your knowledge, is any of that money remaining?
No.
I don't think so. Where's your mind?
I mean, would you know, did you ever have any of that money in your personal account?
I was not allowed
there.
to touch any of it, and he even stated himself, the money is not yours, it is mine, and pretty much I'll do as I please with it, and that was basically it. I
No,
was not
Go ahead.
I was not allowed to be in control of any type of finances.
Okay, at the time that Mr. Burdett got in the accident and he was working, were you working?
Not with a W-2, but I was working under the books, yes.
Well, what kind of work?
I cleaned houses, and I also did a lot of work for Joanna Newsom, I believe her name is. She owned an oil company back in the day over towards Jordanton. So I used to work for
What
her.
kind of work?
Y'all
kind of
need to
work?
be, wait,
Say that again.
Hold on, Gina, you're muted.
there's too much talking over each other. The Zoom cuts one of y'all out, so please speak one at a time.
Yes, ma'am, sorry. Okay, Ms. Santiago, what kind of work for Ms. Newsom?
Anything that she had asked, whether it was cleaning her apartment house, that she was selling her home in Pleasanton at the time of her divorce, and so my mom and I were in charge of taking care of all of that and doing yard sales for her. Anything she would ask, if I know her daughter had graduated the private school in Pleasanton, so I was in charge of doing that for her and doing a little party, running around. Basically anything she needed me to do is what I did.
Okay, like a personal assistant kind of?
Yes.
Okay, how much money would you say you were making around that time?
It would range between $15 to $20 an hour.
I mean, how many hours a week would you say?
I'm not sure. I know I worked, I believe, twice a week for her.
Per city. But
Okay,
there's
now, when Mr. Burdett was in the accident, was he able to work?
Yes.
No,
Wait, say
I
that
wasn't
again?
able to work. I was going through
Mr. Burdett.
litigation.
Mr.
There
Burdett,
he goes.
you'll have an opportunity to tell your
Judge,
side of the
these are
story.
lies. Like, this is ridiculous. She says
I'm
she doesn't
sorry,
even know what
sometimes
she's
I can't
talking
hear.
about.
Mr. Burdett, you don't get to interrupt. She gets to tell me her side of the story. I know your story is going to be different. I'll hear yours in a little bit, okay? But please do not interrupt again. You may continue, Ms. Harkins.
Thank you. Luli, after Mr. Burdett had the accident, was he able to work?
Yes, he was able to work.
Okay, what I'm asking is, did he Did he have injuries from the accident?
Yes, he had injuries from the accident, but he was more than capable of working. The reason why he didn't end up going to work was because the lawyers at Thomas J. Henry told him that it would be in his best interest to not go to work. It would make the case, more valuable.
What kind of injuries did he have?
They did the lumbar fusion is what the one of his surgeries was, and then also the C3 and C4, I believe, on his neck.
When did he have the surgery in relation to the accident?
Say that again?
When did he have the surgery in relation to the accident?
It was a few months after the accident had happened.
How long was Mr. Burdett out of work?
3 years.
What does she lose though? But yeah, she has no idea what she's doing.
I'm sorry, Judge, if I can have just a moment. Okay. All right. You mentioned an Escalade that was purchased. Who is in possession of that Escalade?
I have that Escalade.
Have you in recent months had that looked at to get a quote for what that's worth?
Yes.
And what were you told?
It was when I took it in at 51,000 miles, I believe they said it was worth $30,000. Right now I have at least 63,000 miles on it. So,
go ahead.
So as of right now, I haven't gotten it taken back to see, what would they give me for that.
So since that $30,000 estimate, you have put 10,000 more miles on it?
Yes.
The attorney can't quit talking over her. I don't understand.
As far as taxes for last year, do you know if Mr. Burdett has filed taxes for 2022?
No, I don't know.
Did he ask for any information so that he could file for taxes?
Yes, all the kids' social securities, which I did provide that for him.
Did you do that through me?
Yes.
And did you file for taxes for last year?
No.
So do you have any idea the status of any kind of refund?
No, I don't.
Do you think y'all will get a refund?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because of the kids. And he was also working at Texas Complete Truck Center.
In 2022?
Yes, for a little bit. Yeah, he was working over at in New Braunfels.
Do you know how long he worked for them for in 2022?
For a couple months, I believe.
Do you know why he left that job?
Yes. I know he was having some issues with, I believe, someone in the shop. So altercations, his attitude, I believe, is what caused it to the point where they basically told him that he couldn't work anymore. He then went back, they took him back, and it just got worse to the point where they told him that, they sent gave him a letter stating that he is no longer permitted on their premises because of his behavior.
Did that happen before you left in December?
That happened after I had left.
Okay, did you also send Alex through me a list of the things that you were wanting out of the house?
Yes.
And do you know Mr. Burdett's response to those things?
I know a little bit, yes.
Well, so far, do you think you're going to be getting any of it?
No.
Based on what Mr. Burdett said?
No.
Okay, so do you have the list in front of you, or do you want me to read it out to you?
You can go ahead and read it out to me.
Okay, so an orange tree is listed. That's for sentimental. Is that something that's planted or in a pot?
It's in a pot.
And then some lotus lamps, Christmas and Halloween decor, lily trees. Are those planted or in a pot?
They're in a pot.
Pictures and cards. Are those sentimental things?
Yes.
Pictures of what?
Of the kids.
What about anything that was Bella or Noah's as a baby? What kind of things?
Toys, their first clothing, their hats when they were born, anything along those lines.
Okay, and those kind of things, are you willing to split those with Mr. Burdett?
You just broke up. Say that again.
Are you willing, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, are you willing to split those kind of sentimental things about the children with Mr. Burdett?
Oh, of course.
Also, Isabella's bedroom set and her decorations, Noah's toys in his room, Dr. Seuss books, and a Disney scrapbook. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's really quick sum up what you're asking the judge to do regarding the division of the assets, and then we'll talk about your kids. So how much are you asking for out of the equity in the home?
I think 3,000 is a fair amount.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm asking. The amount that y'all received for the sale of the home that's going into the court, the registry of the court.
Oh, half.
Half, okay.
Yeah.
So regarding the Escalade, what are you wanting to do with the Escalade?
I wanted to keep it so that way I could trade it in, because I cannot afford to just basically do any type of maintenance on the vehicle. It's just it costs too much, and I work kind of far and it's not good on gas. So I would like to trade it in for something that's a little bit cheaper and cost efficient for sure.
Okay, whose name is that in?
That's under Alex's name.
Okay, with the tax refund, what are you asking the judge to do with that?
I would like the kids' portions of it for them.
Okay, so split it fairly in that way.
Yeah, right.
And now, of course, you made that mortgage payment and another one to come. So are you asking for reimbursement for half of those payments?
Yes.
So approximately $2,500 for what's soon to be 2 payments, right?
Yes.
Now, for that, as far as money goes, if the judge orders Mr. Burdett to pay you half of that, do you think that Mr. Burdett would pay you half?
No.
So where would you like that half to come from, your half?
From the sale of the house.
Now, we talked about the PI settlement. In your opinion, during the time that Mr. Burdett was recovering from the accident, did he have a lost earning capacity at that time? And
Yes.
I can clarify that. Did he you've testified to a physical injury, right? And so during that time, did he earn the living that he normally would have been earning?
Yes, a little bit more. They gave him a little bit more.
In the settlement?
Right.
Okay, not from his employer?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about your kids. Right now, you are the sole managing conservator. Are you asking the judge to continue to keep the conservatorship the way it is?
Yes.
Do you feel that that's in your children's best interest?
Yes.
There is a geographic restriction, and it was you were restricted to Atascosa County or the county that you're currently living in New York City, or no, New York, excuse me.
Yes.
And so are you asking the judge to expand that some?
Yes.
Are you working in the county where you live?
No.
So is it possible that you would relocate relatively nearby for your work?
Yes.
So what restriction would you prefer? Geographic wise, I mean, do you need the whole state of New York or?
I don't need the whole state. I would, it would benefit me if it was county wise, just because it gives me an option of moving, you know, closer to where I work.
Let me
Okay,
ask you a
so
question
maybe-
about the what
They just
county do
said they
you
were
live
gonna
in?
split them.
I live in Otsego County.
Ooh, I can't spell that.
I have it, Judge. It's in the temporary orders. It's OTSEGO.
Okay, and what county do you work in?
I work in, I believe it's Unadilla County. It's the county, I believe, above it.
All right.
Actually,
And you said that you and Mr. Burdett were in New York. So does Mr. Burdett have any family in New York?
Yes,
What county does his family live in?
Otsego.
All right. Sorry, Ms. Harkins.
That's okay. Let me clarify, Lily. What county do you work in? I'm looking at a map of the counties.
It's above, I believe it's above Otsego. I work in Utica, New York. I'm not,
Okay, so-
since I've only been here that long, I'm not really too sure on all the counties.
Okay, I think you and I looked and it was, is it Oneida or Oneida?
Oneida?
Mm-hmm. Does that
Oneida,
sound
it would
right?
be Oneida.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that barely touches. So are you okay with contiguous counties? So any county that touches Otsego on a map?
Yes.
And I know you don't have plans to return here, but if so, are you okay with Atascosa and any county that touches it on a map?
Atascosa.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay.
They're almost done, and then Dad's gonna
Regarding
take over.
Mr. Burdett's possession and access to the children, as of right now, the judge has ordered no visits. What are you asking the judge to do now?
I would like to keep it the same.
And
He had surgery.
why do
and
you think
hasn't
that
worked
that's in your
yet.
kid's best interest?
Well, because for obvious reasons right now, I believe that he's not in a place mentally where I could feel comfortable leaving him and the kids. There could be a time right now where I could say I'm running late and all I can think about is him freaking out and coming to my house or trying to do something. And I just don't think that that's healthy or in the right state of mind right now.
If the judge ordered the continuation of no visits, would you be comfortable allowing Mr. Burdett to see the kids if at some point you believe he is doing better and is mentally capable of doing that?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, regarding child support, at the last hearing, the judge ordered half of the minimum wage guideline amount. Do you recall that?
Yes,
There's
Has
room for
Mr.
another
Burdett been
cut.
making those payments?
he has, except for this month. Yes.
So far, not for July yet, right?
Right.
And is that enough for the 3 kids?
No, definitely not.
So, we'll hear testimony from Mr. Burdett asked whether he's working right now, but if he's not working, are you asking the judge to order the guideline amount at minimum wage at least?
Yes.
And what kind of medical insurance do the kids have?
They have Medicaid.
Through you?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right, we're going to take a little time out, and I guess if you want to gather your exhibits while we take this short time out, so we're just going to take a little break, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. So that'll be about 1:58. We'll be back.
Judge takes a
Judge,
lot of breaks.
Just making sure, I just readmit those, right?
Yeah, I'd offer them again, and then
I
they'll
think
have
he
to be
took, like,
readmitted, especially since
4 or 5 breaks
have him
during
here
the
to
whole trial that I
look
had
at
to
them.
cut out.
Mr. Burdett, well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Burdett, while we're at this break, you're going to have an opportunity after we come back to ask questions of Ms. Santiago. So while we're on this break, you might want to think about what questions you need to ask her. It's not your turn yet to tell your side of the story, but it is your turn to ask questions. So think about that while we're away. I'll be back in about 10 minutes. All right, Mr. Burdett, Ms. Harkins.
Okay, so that was they're on their 10-minute break and coming back. And I was going to make a point, and now I don't know what it is. I totally think the judge has a small bladder because I keep seeing him like sipping on his water nonstop. Hey, we can't all have camel bladders. What can we do? Whew, here we go.
Has now finished her questions. It's time for you to ask questions of Ms. Santiago. Let me tell you that only questions are allowed. It is not your opportunity to tell your side of the story, and you may ask her questions. And then also, you don't get to argue with her if you don't like her answers. So if she gives you an answer that you don't like, you don't get to tell me your side of the story right then and there. You might have to wait until it's your opportunity to testify. Do you understand?
He doesn't
All right, Mr.
understand.
Burdett, you may begin questioning Ms. Santiago.
Ms. Santiago, in regards to you relocating to the Utica, New York, why do you feel that it is justifiable and it is a good place for my children to reside, knowing that that city and anywhere locally next to it is known for heavy gang activity, shootings, drugs, and numerous things? And I can tell you, because I lived around there all my life, and I know people that live around there as far as my family friends. So why do you feel that that's a justifiable and safe area for my children to reside as opposed to where you're currently at?
Okay, can I answer?
You may.
Okay, I'm not residing there right now. It could be a possibility in the near future, but if I were to, it wouldn't be in a location where it would be in a location where I'd feel safe and that the kids are going to be in a good school. I wouldn't just put myself in or the kids in any type of danger. And I think you know that.
All right, Mr. Burdett, you may ask your next question.
Why do you feel that it's
He's with his
justifiable for
family.
you to receive half of everything, including the Escalade? When
Well, as far
hold on, I'm sorry, I need to add to that to be more specific. When the majority of the funds that purchased all of those items, and including the house, the Escalade, you also forgot to mention all the furniture in the house that I purchased through my settlement. You failed to neglect that you held my Bank of America debit card through the whole period of time when I received my settlement, and I did hand you numerous amounts of cash.
Hang on, Mr. Burdett, that's too much. So shorten your answer, because I don't know even sure what the question is.
Why do you feel it's why do you feel it's justifiable that you receive half plus the Escalade?
Okay, can I answer?
You may.
Okay, as far as the Escalade, I came to the conclusion where if I were to give you the Escalade, which wouldn't be a problem for me, but the problem that relied there is the fact that right now I am working and there is a period of time where I cannot miss a lot of work. So the only option for me was to take the Escalade and go trade it in for something that's economical for me right now and a lot cheaper for me to change as far as like if parts need to be changed or anything like that. I also have the 3 kids. I need to make sure that it's a vehicle that's going to be reliable. So that's the reason why I came to that conclusion. As far as the house and everything else, I lived with you for 13 years and I felt like that was fair to ask. Not only that is I'm at a place right now where because I was a stay-at-home mom for all those years, I had, now in my 30s, I am picking myself up as far as like when I was a stay-at-home mom, you were the sole breadwinner of the family, and you continued your career and you were able to build up on that and build up on years of that knowledge, where as far as me, I have to kind of start all over, and it is difficult with 3 kids. And do I foresee you paying child support in the near future? I really don't.
What is your
Next question, Mr. Burdett.
What does your mention of child support have anything to do with you receiving half of everything? Nothing.
You may answer that, Ms. Santiago.
Ask that again.
The question
What
was,
does-
why did you mention child support when he was asking about the division of community property?
I'm not sure. I guess I just wanted to let him know how I felt about that.
All right, Mr. Burdick, next question.
Um, well, I mean, I don't really have a question. I mean, it's a lot to think about, Judge.
I'd like 3 months to think about it.
What would you like to see to be done with what is still remaining at the house in regards to the children's things, as far as their bedroom furniture and their memory stuff, so that way it can be moved from the house before the end of the month?
I would like for.
So he's asking, you've asked for some stuff. What is he supposed to do with that stuff between now and when the house closes on July the 31st?
Well, one, either I can come down and get the things, that are in the house that I had asked.
Did you notice he's vaping too? Very like discreetly. I don't think the judge
For
noticed.
as far as the kids things, or if the option you would like to put it in a storage unit and I pay for it every month, I have no problem doing that either.
Okay. You just stated previously that you couldn't take much time off of work and to do with the vehicle. How would you be able to take time off to drive all the way down from New York, which takes 3 days, and then drive up? That would accumulate almost 9 days of no work. I don't understand
answer
how
that.
that would be possible.
Okay, well, first off, when I was thinking about going to Texas, I would fly down. As far as missing days of work, I don't have the funds to buy a new vehicle, so that's going to take me months. And not only that, if I were to trade the vehicle in, I could literally trade the vehicle in and come out with another vehicle. So that way I don't miss work. I have to provide for these kids. There's no way, I have no option.
There's no disagreement there.
I don't understand what he means by that she has to provide for him. And he says there's no disagreement. Is he saying he's not going to pay child support, so it's all on her? Or, yeah, we have to take care of our kids? I don't get it.
How do you expect me to accomplish getting all these things done before the end of the month with my injuries?
Well, as far as your injuries, I'm not aware of any new injuries that you have. If I have to send some sort of money to have someone help you or whatever the case may be, you could always contact Megan. She could contact me, and then we can work something out from there.
Right. Why do you feel that I should reimburse you for half of the mortgage payments that you have paid thus far just because you've been borrowing it from someone else? When I paid for everything for 12 years. Now all of a sudden, when the tables are turned, you're having to pay for something and now you want to be reimbursed for it? Why does that have to come out of my pocket?
Okay, I'll answer that. Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, you may.
Okay. As far as you bringing monetary in the house, absolutely. As far as me, just because we've been together for 13 years did not mean that I did not hold the household together just because I did not bring money into the home.
Okay, but that's your job as a partner in life. That doesn't mean that you get to seek repayment through that.
A question, Mr. Burdick, a question, please.
Absolutely. Sorry. She was stating something.
That comment right there just summed up his personality for me. That's your job, to take care of things. So people have mixed opinions on stay-at-home moms after divorce. Like, they really are starting from scratch, whereas the other person has a career already. So do they deserve compensation for that in the divorce because they're starting at such a disadvantage because they were the ones to stay home with the kids? Or is that just part of life and go on with it? You got to stay home for years. What do you guys think?
Why do you feel that it's justifiable that I pay for things and take even more of a hit when you know that I don't even have a place to live after this? And you do.
As far as a place, I'm thankful, because if it was not for your dad's side of the family, I would not have a place for myself at all. But here soon, I they can only help me as much as they can. That's why I'm
They'll have
working,
an
so that way I
extra cut.
can get a new place and be able to pay for rent and all those things. I mean, there's only so much I can do.
Why do you feel that you should receive 50% knowing that I don't have a job? I don't have any place to go. My family has exiled and abandoned me, and I don't have anyone to go to. So the only way for me to be able to
Cardboard box.
accomplish getting a place and to hit the reset button on my life would be through the funds of the sale of the house.
Okay, well, just like you have to restart on the funds of the house, I've got 3 kids to maintain, and I also have to start my life too. And they're not cheap.
I'm done, Judge.
What was that,
Really
Mr. Burdick?
impressed.
I'm finished, Judge. I don't have anything else to ask.
All right. Ms. Santiago, I do have a few questions for you.
Okay,
So I'm just going to go over some of the testimony that I heard earlier. So Mr. Burdick had received approximately $450,000 to $430,000 in a personal injury settlement, correct?
yes,
And from that, he purchased, with the proceeds from that personal injury settlement, the Escalade.
yes,
And he also put a down payment on the house from the proceeds from that personal injury settlement of $120,000.
yes,
And I'm guessing most of the stuff that was bought inside the house was also bought as from proceeds from that settlement as well.
no, not really. It's 13 years together, so there was already a lot of things in the home previous to when he had gotten the settlement. As far as, also, I was working not only for Joanna, but I had other clients as well that I was working, and a lot of the things that I did have that were my personal belongings, I did buy with my own money.
And then those, you said that he has 7 other vehicles. Some are sort of junk vehicles, but did he buy all those vehicles with the proceeds from his personal injury lawsuit?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Harkins, I don't have any more questions. You can follow up.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, Ms. Santiago, I want to go back to temporary orders where we admitted some exhibits, and we need to go back through those. If you'll recall,
So she said she worked under the table, which it amazes me the number of people who admit in court to working under the table. I guess it's not like the court's going to call the IRS and the IRS is going to sit here and watch a YouTube feed. So yeah, I get it, but wow. But she was taking care of the kids, 3 kids in daycare. Do you know how much that would cost? So I totally see that. And by the way, pups now have their own beds. Yeah.
we had admitted some text messages and recordings. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, so do you remember a text message that was sent in January by Mr. Burdett, where he discussed burning the house down?
Yes.
Now, did I send you a screenshot of that so that you could take a look at what I'm going to seek to admit?
Yes, you did send me that.
And does that, what I sent you, look like an accurate depiction of the text message as sent by Mr. Burdett back in January?
Yes.
And have any alterations been made to that screenshot of the messages?
No.
Judge, it's been a minute since I've done this, but I guess I'd like to share my screen
All right, you should have the ability to do
Paid for
so.
my house. Actually, I just find a house. in
Okay,
general.
Ms. Santiago, I'm showing you the text message. Was that sent to you on January 8th of 2023? Does that sound right, that that was sent January 8th of 2023? Are you able to see it?
No, hardly anybody gets it anymore.
She's on, Ms. Santiago, you're on mute. So if you could unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And again, there aren't that many stay-at-home.
All right,
moms
repeat your
anymore.
question,
Can
Ms.
you hear me?
Hawkins.
Nobody can afford it.
Yes, now we can. Okay, my question was, does this look like the accurate depiction of the text message sent by Mr. Burdett on January 8th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay, Judge, I seek to admit petitioner's exhibit 1 into evidence.
Petitioner's exhibit number 1 is admitted into evidence.
Okay, Ms. Santiago, if you will read, well, let's start at the top. So he's referencing a Joseph. What is he saying there?
Joseph is his aunt's son who had passed away due to something along. He was using drugs for a long time, so something happened with his. I can't remember what it was, but he ended up passing away.
Okay, I don't quite understand where you're coming from, Carol. They were together like a family. Just because they weren't married, I don't think that should disqualify them from being a family. They were together for 13 years, lived together, had a family. It's not like he was her side piece and she just got knocked up. So I don't know if you could compare her to single parents.
Okay, so here he's saying he'll see someone who's deceased sooner rather than later, or sooner than later.
Mhm.
And then he talks about making a video, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you'll go down to the bigger chunk in the white, would you read that for the judge?
It says, no, I'm burning everything. And then I'm burning the house down with me inside. There's your fucking reality check. And there's nothing that you can do to stop it from happening. Hope you're happy with what you fucked up in my life.
Now, at this point, of course, you'd already moved, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you recall another text message sent to you on January 28th?
Yes.
Whoops. Oh my gosh. Sorry, Judge. I clicked on
Yeah.
the wrong one.
They're legal in Texas.
Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, does that look like the text sent to you from Mr. Burdett on January 28th?
Yes.
Okay, does it look like any changes have been made or any alterations to this exhibit?
No.
Let me scroll down to the next page. You can look at that as well. Any changes here?
No.
Okay, is it correct that you are on an Android?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's a lengthy text, do you have to click view all to see the rest of the message?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So in particular, let's highlight this part. Would you read that for us?
It says, you left because you couldn't handle the monster you turned me into. I may have had some issues before, but I was never physically abusive with a single female before you. And I had plenty of fights with them and so on. And then you come along and I have over 10 police reports on record against me. So who's the real fucking problem here, me or you?
Okay, so did Mr. Burdett frequently send you text messages like this? Back
Yes.
then? Okay, now also with an Android,
made me
can you send,
abusive.
I guess it's
I
like a
can't process that.
voice text.
Yes, a voice to text, yes.
And so is that a recording of the person's voice?
Yes.
Do you remember a series of those voice texts that were sent to you on January 25th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And there's 4 of them. Do you recall sending me those, listening to them, and identifying them?
Yes, correct.
Whose voice is on those messages?
Alex.
And the copies that you provided me, were any alterations made to those?
No,
Judge, I move to admit, I guess it's petitioner's exhibit 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have them each separate, but they're recordings.
Petitioner's exhibits 3, 4, 5, and 6 are admitted into evidence. We didn't do number 2 though, Ms. Harkins. Did we skip number 2?
Oh, great. Yes. Okay. Then I also move to admit exhibit 2, which is the text message from January 28th. Thank you.
Petitioner's exhibit number 2 is admitted into evidence.
They boycott the unicorn. I don't know
I
why.
got out
It's
of the
the
habit
biggest
of
one.
doing these.
Yeah,
these.
Yeah.
Okay. Judge, may I publish the recordings?
You may.
Anyone with trigger issues, you probably aren't even watching this, and I forgot to give the warning at the beginning, but the audio recordings are pretty intense.
So I'm showing you what the fuck you're causing because you're sitting here being a fucking narcissist right now and you keep pointing a finger back at me. I'm gonna tell you what. When I fucking see you, wherever the fuck it is in life, Louie, you're gonna fucking see a fucking narcissist. Because you fucking turned me into one towards you. Because that's exactly how you treat me on a consistent basis. You're the narcissist, Lily. You always have been. You always will be. Just like your fucking sister, just like your mother, just like Melvin, just like fucking Viviana. If you don't fucking think so, I'll file a lawsuit against all of you for emotional damages. And then I'll fucking prove it in a court of law. And then none of you will be able to deny a fucking thing.
Judge, did anything play? Did y'all hear that or no?
Oh, wait, I heard it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I couldn't help it was playing. Couldn't tell if anybody was hearing anything. Okay.
Welcome.
You need to shut the fuck up and you need to stop being a stupid ass bitch like you've been for the past fucking 12 years, like you continue to keep fucking acting, sitting here assuming that I'm talking to someone else when I'm not actually talking to anybody. You're such a fucking idiot.
The thing that I keep going back to is he's listening to this, and how is he not processing, hey, what I'm doing is wrong. I need to like get it under control or something. I don't know.
Anytime I try and point out anything to you, you immediately point the finger back at me. Because you get defensive. Because you're a fucking narcissist. You fucking piece of shit. Down here in abandoned and got an order of protection put against me. Okay? You fucking did all that. You assault charges against me. You fucking drove me insane, you fucking nutbag. So stop sitting there telling me that it was my fucking fault when you're the one who caused me the emotional distress to go criminally insane.
Okay, Ms. Santiago. Lastly, did Mr. Burdett back same day, January 25th, send you recordings of him speeding on the road?
yes,
Okay, do you remember watching those?
yes,
And the ones that you provided to me, was that an accurate depiction of the ones that he sent you?
yes,
Were any alterations made to those recordings?
no,
Okay, Judge, I move to admit petitioners exhibits 7 and 8, which are the video recordings.
Petitioner's exhibits 7 and 8 are admitted into evidence.
Okay. May I share my screen?
You may.
Go pick up fucking kids. You guys all want to fucking acknowledge me? You guys want to be heartless assholes? Enjoy reading my fucking obituary and leave me alone in life, you fucking pieces of shit. Go fuck yourself!
Do you guys see the speed on that? It was really hard to see. I zoomed in last time. I think I saw it get up to 114.
A heartless piece of that shit. You guys are nothing but heartless pieces of shit. And I hope you fucking rot in hell for being insensitive and uncaring and unloving of everybody around you, because all you give a fuck is about your own fucking feelings, you heartless pieces of shit. You want to fucking sit here and fucking send me over the deep end and fucking kill myself in traffic, because that's what the fuck you're doing. My dad didn't even fucking be there for me like a fucking father. You fucking heartless piece of shit. You're gonna cause me to kill myself, and my kids aren't gonna have a father just like those kids. Go fuck yourself.
Judge, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Burdick, you have an opportunity again to ask some questions of Ms. Santiago. Do you have any questions for her?
Ms. Santiago, you submitted
don't know
certain
why the judge
sections of
doesn't.
conversations to do between you and I. Why didn't you include any other parts of the conversations where you were instigating fights?
Can I answer that?
You may answer.
You asked me the same question last time, and I'm going to give you the same basic response. When I took
You're breaking up.
those key points because
Hold on,
they
Ms.
were
Santiago,
the
start that sentence
points
over.
that-
Ms. Santiago,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, start that sentence over because you broke up.
So I took those key points because of the fact that you were threatening to kill yourself and you were not in the right state of mind. And as far as the kids go, that is showing that you cannot make those type of decisions. You are not well at this time to even, remotely parent them, with what you have going on. It's not okay. You don't just sit there and do that. And in none of the messages that I've ever texted you did I ever state or said anything like that. There's no technical fights. If I didn't agree with something that you said, you took it above and beyond and either started screaming or pretty much acting out. I cannot help what you decide to do and what you act out on. I can only control me and myself.
Ms. Santiago, you degraded and demeaned me and put me down over a period of 12 years, amongst many other things. You called me numerous names.
Judge, I'm going to
that
object.
were-
He's making a
Yeah,
statement.
if that's
No,
a
I'm
question,
trying to ask a question. I'm
No,
not like trying to make a statement.
right? So get to it.
Okay. Why is it that
So I'm an old lady because I drive like an old lady. That's interesting. I stopped it for a second because that's a really good question. Any substance abuse history. It's not mentioned. I don't hear it mentioned anywhere. But how many times have we heard people addicted to heroin or something along those lines started with a back injury or something of that nature, like a serious injury where they were prescribed painkillers and it turned into an addiction? And from what I can tell, he has not been back to work in a full-time job since that injury. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And I'm not suggesting that it does. I'm just saying that is something that we see frequently, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. We just don't have that information.
the period over 12 years, you did all those things to me as far as degraded me? Do you not expect that to have detrimental effects to my own emotional and mental psyche?
Yes, I'm going to answer that. In all those years when I've used names or anything like that, it was to defend myself because of the way that I was being treated by you. Don't you think that those things have detrimental effect on me?
Okay. Do you not acknowledge the emotional and mental abuse that you received prior to you and I ever being involved with each other from your parents?
No.
You stated, then why did you state to me throughout our relationship over 12 years that your parents degraded and demeaned you?
Okay, first of all, I recognize now that I'm older that my mother was not perfect. She did not live a very good life. And I cannot pity myself over those things and how life ended up for her. She couldn't afford certain things. You know, there was times where, you know, she could not give me the love or attention at that time. But now I see that as a child, I take that as maybe she wasn't giving me a lot of love. But now as I'm getting older, is she had to do what she had to do in order to provide for us.
Ms. Santiago,
So he's basically acting pro se, just like we saw in the Yan trial. He's allowed to question the victim on the other side. I think it's horrible. I think it should be changed, that the defendant should not be allowed to question the victim, especially with what's going on in the Yan trial. It's sick, but it's the law.
your answer didn't even relate to the question.
Then ask it again, sorry.
I was referencing the effects that your parents degrading and demeaning you over a period of years that you admitted to me while we were together.
You had a bad
As
childhood,
far
so
as the
that's why we
degrading
broke up.
things, I don't really foresee that at this time.
this
It
relevant?
being degrading. I know I had mentioned to you that my stepfather said a couple things that were not very nice to me, and yes, those things have stuck on. But as far as my mom was a very loving mother, and my mom even took you on whenever you were living with me, and even you have stated that she was more of a mother to you than your own
That
mom.
has nothing to do with the subject. You're bleeding
But
off
I'm
into a
sorry,
different subject matter.
I'm not understanding your
There are-
question. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at.
You stated to me in the length of
Nothing he
time
says
that we were
has
together
anything to do with it.
that your parents degraded and demeaned you over several years while you were a teenager. Okay? Do you not recognize the detrimental effects that can have on your own mental psyche as far as everlasting effects?
Judge, I'm going to object to asked and answered and relevance also.
Sustained. You may ask another
Finally.
question, Mr. Burdett.
I don't know if she was
That's fine.
asleep or what. Zoning out. But good for her for getting straight to take care of the kids. It was sickening, like how much he enjoyed talking about it and reliving it. Ugh.
Ms. Santiago, in between the time where the order of protection expired, which would have been February 12th to the 14th of 2023. In between that date and when the judge ruled in the case, the 2-year order of protection, why did you threaten to take my children and flee the state and hide them from me as violating my parental rights?
Do you have proof of that?
I
Ma'am,
still
just
have the
answer-
text messages.
Don't ask him questions, just answer his question.
I don't recall that at all.
Oh, I still have the text messages, and if I need to, I'm on a cell phone, so Judge, the text messages are on the cell phone that I'm currently on, so I don't know how to share or any of that stuff. But if necessary, I can forward those messages over to Ms. Harkins.
That's where I get really irritated. Like they complain that they're getting screwed over and everything else, but they don't take that little initiative to figure out, hey, what do I need to do with this court case to be able to present my evidence, to be able to, represent myself? It's a quick Google or a phone call to be able to figure this out ahead of time. And they don't care enough to put that much effort in, but they're going to sit here and argue about how they deserve whatever it is that they want. And that drives me crazy.
Because that
Yeah,
action was.
Well, right now, we're just talking about asking questions of Ms. Santiago, so you can
That's
ask her some questions. But as far as presentation of evidence, if you're not prepared to present your evidence in a form which can be accepted by the court, that's a problem.
I don't know how to.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's a problem.
Well, Ms. Harkins had even previously stated to me over the phone that if this was, well, I'm not even thinking of it.
All right, next question, Mr. Burdett.
I don't have any more questions here.
All right, Ms. Harkins, any other questions?
Briefly, Judge, Ms. Santiago, Mr. Burdett asked you about your mom. Has he ever assaulted your mom?
Yes,
Was he arrested for that?
yes.
How did he assault her?
I believe he had hit her in the nose and she was bleeding.
When was that?
I cannot remember. Do not recall the date, exact date
In
on
the
that.
last year? I'm sorry. In the last year?
Yes, it was before I left Texas.
When you left Texas, was your mother living with y'all? Well, when you and Mr. Burdett were living together, was your mother living there with you?
She was living there at a period of time because
You're frozen.
Child
Hold on.
Protective Services were called.
Okay. So at some point last year, was CPS involved?
Yes,
And what happened to the case when you moved to New York?
it got dropped
Why is that?
because they felt that Alex was a danger to the children, and they both interviewed, which I didn't even know they were going to. They interviewed Isabella and Noah. I don't know what was said, what was asked, but they concluded that Alex was a person that was in danger of the children, and I wasn't.
Why can't any
Well,
of these
when
people
you
meet
moved to New
them?
York, did they drop the case
Get
because
help.
you had moved?
They dropped the case because I moved and because I was not going to be with
Yes.
or near Alex. They made sure that I was safe. They
Why is he
had
not
the
getting it?
police come, and because I obviously stayed with my sister for a little bit. So the police came and made sure that we were okay, the environment was okay, and that Alex was not around before they closed the case.
So the police visited you in New York?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Harkins, before you pass the witness, can you prove
Thank
up the
you.
divorce portion of things?
Just so you guys know, something so simple as hitting the like button really does help a tremendous amount, because it gets the video into the algorithm, like, or a simple comment on a video. And once it gets in the algorithm and it gets thousands of views, it's so much more profitable than if it's got 100 views. So I really appreciate it when you guys are doing things like that. And I titled this originally, "The System is Broken," because I was upset that he wasn't ordered to get mental health counseling. But like, seeing this second one and everything that's happened and everything he's gone through, 2 criminal cases, the TPO against him, and he even admits that he has gone to counselors twice and he left because he disagreed about the treatment that they recommended. Why has no one in any of these cases required it? He is a danger. Why not? I don't understand it, and it's really frustrating to me that our system is not capable of preventing people from bad things happening.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
They don't take action until the bad thing happens.
Judge, let me find my petition. I'm sorry. I can go ahead and get started. Ms. Santiago, were you, prior to filing this suit, were you a resident of Texas for the preceding 6 months?
Yes.
And a resident of Atascosa County for the preceding 90 days?
Yes.
And has your marriage to Mr. Burdett become insupportable due to a discord or conflict of personalities?
Yes.
Has that destroyed the legitimate ends of your marriage relationship?
Yes.
Any hope of reconciliation?
No.
And we already established that you have 3 children together. And do you believe that what you're requesting of the court is in their best interest?
Yes.
And do you believe that the division of the assets is just, fair, and equitable
Yes.
that you're requesting?
Yes.
And you do not need a name change, is that correct?
Say that again?
You don't need a name change, right? You never changed
No.
your name.
No,
Okay, and are you currently expecting a child?
no.
Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Burdett, do you have any other questions for Ms. Santiago?
Well, actually, yes. Is there any way that we could get the two older kids' last name changed? Please.
That's not before the court.
No, I'm asking her.
I have,
The two older kids have his last name. I omitted that in the beginning and then realized it was kind of senseless since they talk about it nonstop. He wants the kids to no longer have his name.
to have the power to do it, and it's not something that's.
No. I'm not asking if we can do it right now. I'm asking her, would she be okay with it?
Okay. Ms. Santiago.
Yes, I'm okay with it.
Next question, Mr. Burdett.
I've already asked all the questions that I could think of. I really don't
Please
know
explain this, someone.
There's so
All right,
much.
Never
anything,
heard this term.
all right, anything else, Ms. Harkins?
No, Your Honor.
I think we'll take a little break before you call your next witness. So it's 2:35. We'll be back at 2:45.
Judge, I'll call Mr. Burdett.
All right, Mr. Burdett, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear the testimony that you give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may put your hand down.
Think about that for a second.
Sir, what is your name?
Alexander Stephen Burdett.
Are you the husband in this case?
Yes.
And are you the father of these 3 children?
Yes.
You may proceed, Ms. Harkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, before I get started, my plan is to ask Mr. Burdett very limited questions about his pending criminal charge, just mainly about dates. So I don't know if you want to admonish him.
All right, Mr. Burdett, Ms. Harkins is saying that she's going to ask you some questions about some pending criminal charges. You should know that anything that you say here today in answering those questions could be used against you in your criminal trial. So you have a right to remain silent if she asks you any questions that you think by answering might incriminate yourself. Now, if she's just asking about dates that you might have been accused of something, that doesn't really incriminate you, but but if she asks it in the correct way, she asks like, what day were you arrested? Well, that doesn't necessarily incriminate you. Or if she asks like, what day were you accused of doing something? That probably does not incriminate you. You understand?
Yeah, because it's just identifying a specific
I
day.
support that.
Right. But if she asks you what happened, then then she's asking for testimony that could be used against you in a criminal trial. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Harkins,
Yes,
you may
sir.
proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, Mr. Burdett, we'll just start with that. Is it correct that your assault family violence charge has officially been filed?
Yes.
And is it correct that the date of the alleged offense is December 12th of 2022? Or on or about that day?
Yes.
And when is your upcoming court date?
The 20th of this month. July 20th.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Burdett, are you currently working?
Not under W-2. I've been trying to do small odd jobs, helping friends, trying to make money whatever way I can, liquidating some of my personal assets, things like that.
Assets from the home, right? In the home and around the
Well,
home?
Yes, none that are anything that she's requesting.
Okay. So what kind of odd jobs have you been doing?
I've been trying to do some mechanical work because I still own my tools. I've tried to see if I could do any. I've made posts in the Pleasanton area chat about mowing lawn. No one reached out or got a hold of me. I've reached out to numerous people in the diesel performance industry, whether it be in the state of Texas and also in other states, such as Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, trying to gain employment any way that I possibly could.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I'm doing all right.
what is your trade? Mechanic work? Mechanic?
No, by trade, I'm a welder and a fabricator.
And you can't find work?
What is the last job you had?
It was Texas. Well, I worked 2 days at Proline New Water Boat Works in Elmendorf on the books. I had tried to regain employment at Texas Complete Truck Center, but I didn't actually work for them at all, paid on the books. I originally took off of work in late August because I smashed my pinky and an injury at work, and it was a week before my son was due to be born, and also my house being purchased and moving from house to house. So I hadn't worked technically for Texas Complete Truck Center since the last week in August of 2022.
So is that the last consistent job that you've had?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about the house. So since January, have you made any mortgage payments on the house?
I've been unable to.
Okay, but would you agree with me that Luli's made a couple, right?
Myself? Or
No, Luli. Yeah, Luli made 1,000 in January and then another 2,500 last month, right? Or in May.
yeah, the last
Remember?
payment was made in May,
And
and that was
My-
$2,500.
and my client made that, right?
Yes, but I have no acknowledgement of any $1,000 payment.
It was
Okay.
a back injury.
And then you relayed to me that she'll need to make another $2,500 payment here pretty quick, right?
Before the 21st or the 20th, or I had forwarded that information, I think, over to you and also Pete, the realtor, as well, of the actual letter.
And do you agree that the house, the contract on the house will close at the end of this month?
Yes.
And if you'll recall from the last hearing, we established and you ended up agreeing that that deed of trust is in both names, listing both of you as spouses, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you please tell us what vehicles you have in your possession?
Something to be grateful for every morning.
My 2006 Dodge, which is broken. The bottom end of the motor is not working. A 98 Dodge that was one of the parts vehicles that she referenced previously. That one is non-roadworthy. And then my 2007 Altima, which has an electrical ECU problem, and that was a daily driver before I even received my personal injury lawsuit. And then I have
That's a big
99
piece of
Dodge.
property to park all these cars.
A 99 Dodge what?
2,500.
Okay, since Luli moved out, have you sold any vehicles?
Yes.
The big neighbor
How
dog
many did
park.
you sell?
They have to go fight.
3.
Stop. You're fine.
What, the vehicle that you drive, is it the 99 Dodge?
Yes. At the moment.
What about taxes? I know that you and I had emailed some about them. Have you ever filed for
I,
the,
no, not yet.
Wasn't fast enough to hit mute.
do you expect to get a refund?
I don't know until I file. I would assume so.
How do you feel about splitting the refund with Ms. Santiago?
I don't see how that would be accomplishable since I'm sitting at over $20,000 in debt currently, all in my name. That was acquired during the relationship with Miss Santiago. I don't see how that would be justifiable. I'm the one
Okay.
that has assumed all the debt. My credit has been ruined. I'm still paying on a cell phone that she took from that property and her Galaxy Watch that has not been returned to me to where I could return them to the store. I've been making the payment on it, and it's also the monthly payment for those two lines that I've been unable to cancel because of the fact that I've been unable to pay off that debt because it was a brand new phone, which accumulates between both devices over $1,300 right now.
Have
That
you
I'm also
requested that they be
responsible for?
returned in writing, like you're supposed to?
Because
told
everything
you?
was in my name.
Okay, what is this $20,000 debt you're referencing?
$8,906 on Bank of America credit card, $7,400 at Ashley's Furniture for the king size bedroom set that we had bought for our house when we had moved. Let's see, there's almost about $1,500 in a Best Buy credit card. There is over $4,000, I think $300 on a Home Depot credit card. There's $150 roughly at K Jewelers. Obviously the debt of the cell phones that I am having to pay for in order to actually get them off of my AT&T bill because I'm stuck paying roughly $300 a month right now. And I mean, a good chunk of it, half of it is coming from her two lines.
The Ashley Furniture, do you still have that furniture?
Yeah, it's right in the bedroom.
Are you going to keep it or sell it or what?
I mean, if I need to, as far as the bedroom set, I can sell it. I mean, I don't have a place to live. So, I mean, realistically, why would I keep a bedroom set that, I mean, I could put it in storage. But that's really my only option at the moment is just put it in storage until I can get a place to live. Now,
But
if
he said
I
he was in like a
can't get a
91
place
or
to live
something.
and I have to find myself maybe a travel trailer, then obviously I would sell it. It would be no point to keep it.
Okay, do you recall when you and I were emailing some that I asked you to send me proof of these debts?
Yeah.
And you didn't send me anything, right?
I sent you some things. I didn't get a chance to send you everything. I will say that.
Well, I mean
He
credit
was
card
busy
statements,
working.
any kind of statements showing the Bank of America, the Best Buy, etc.
At that time, I didn't get a chance to get those sent over. I was trying to get a job. I was trying to pay bills. I was trying to do so many other things other than just that. So it's been
That would
very
have got you
hard
the money.
considering I also have PTSD, anxiety, depression, vast amounts
Here
of
we go.
stress triggers that I'm trying to go through
He screwed up. He has no excuse. He can't blame it on anyone else. So this is what we resort to. This is classic, and it's really frustrating.
every single day because I miss my kids. I'm in literal, like, what you would consider culture shock because the fact that I was around my kids for the majority of their life. I haven't been able to see my newborn son he's 10 months old now. I haven't seen him
You
since
wanted to give him
December. He
up.
doesn't even know who I am. Like, he's not even going to know me as a father. So what do you think that doesn't have detrimental effects on me too? Those kids are my life. When I was able to speak to them, they wanted to speak to me, but no one wants to acknowledge that. No one wants to acknowledge the detrimental effects that it's having on my kids because I can't be involved in their life. They're depressed. They're like, I was literally told by my stepmother that about a couple of actions that my son committed against my cousin's kids because they were fighting over a Nintendo Switch. Not only that, I have video proof on this phone of my son posting a 1 minute long TikTok not too long ago on her TikTok account. How is that? How is her being around all of those adults and everything? How is my son able to get on TikTok and do all those things? That means that obviously he wasn't being supervised. And this is
Okay.
what you say that it's the best place for my kids to be.
Okay, Mr. Burdett, let's stay on the topic of your kids. At the last hearing,
His PTSD is supposedly from when he assaulted her and she called the cops. That's what he's alleging his PTSD was caused by.
you said that you were not in the current mental state to have conservatorship over your kids. So what have you done to address your mental health since we were last here?
I was seeking therapy at a social health center.
You were seeking it. Are you currently?
I had to discontinue seeing that therapist, and I've been unable to appropriate another one through referral. I actually just called yesterday for the Atascosa Health Center, and Miss Richter, my normal primary care, is on vacation and won't be back until after the 20th. So I was going to seek a referral, but it's also hard because me also having Medicaid, I have very limited resources. It only covers certain places, and a lot of these places are far out. And I mean, how am I supposed to go to therapy 20, 30, 40 minutes away when I don't even have a job?
That's nothing. I know people who drive like 4-6 hours to get to a doctor because that's all that's available. Like 20 minutes to get to a doctor, that's nothing.
How am I supposed to pay for that fuel? It's like I'm expected to recover.
Get a
But
car.
I don't have a way to get there.
That doesn't take so much fuel.
I'm doing everything in my own capability to look things up, to recognize my behaviors, to try and remedy any of that, reading books, talking to friends, trying to gain a support system so that way I can recover by myself. Back then, yes, I did blatantly say I was not in a good state to have visitation with my kids. Like physical
Medicaid usually
visitation.
covers Teladoc.
I don't see how, I mean, really right now, I'm in the state of Texas, she's in the state of New York. That's not even accomplishable right now. Like, I don't want to try and get visitation rights right now because, I mean,
Real quick, sorry. This really bothered me. He brought this up and said that happened. But how many times have you given your kid your phone to do something with? And they've done something else with it? I mean, it takes 30 seconds to make a TikTok video. So 2 minutes and they make a video. You find out about it, you take it down, you yell at them for it, and you don't let it happen again. But that's a hard thing to prevent when you're not aware of it.
feel that I still need to further my
opinion.
own self-help journey, but I feel that I should at least be able to talk to my kids.
Right?
I mean,
Mhm.
is that really asking for too much? I mean, they miss me. They love me. They cry every time I talk to them because they miss me and they love me. I used to sleep with them every single night. Do you think them being away from me for 6 to 8 months is not going to have a shock inside of them emotionally and mentally? Like, I know what my kids are feeling because I'm feeling the same thing from being away from them. Depressed, anxious, sad.
So fix it.
I mean, that's what I feel, and that's what my kids have told me. And the couple of times that I was able to actually speak to them without her manipulation in the background or getting hung up on or getting blocked from her behalf. So
Okay, Mr. Burdett, are you currently on any medication?
no,
There you go.
because the medication that I was on was not helping. It was not conducive to my specific disorder.
So when I put this together as subtitles, I threw in a little fun fact here that I will share with you as well. Can't remember the statistic. It's somewhere in like the 70 or 80% of antidepressant medications cause ED symptoms in men. I couldn't find the actual statistics on how many discontinue taking it because of that, but I am well aware of quite a few that have and refused treatment because of those side effects. So there's so many things that could be preventing him from getting treatment that he needs. And I just thought that was interesting. How many men are not seeking treatment because of the side effects of the mental health treatment might affect their fun in life.
And I have spoke to Miss Richter at Atascosa Health Center about it. I mean, I was going through the therapy to figure that out. I'm still going to continue to try. Like, I'm
He
not
doesn't
giving
like
up
any of
on
it.
that. I'm going to
not
go through
ready.
my self-help journey to be able to recover from whatever problems I have internally.
Thank
So
you.
that way I can be deemed safe to be around my kids. I love my kids. I want to be able to provide for my kids.
That's all. That's the only questions I have, Judge.
All right, Mr. Burdett, now is your time, your turn. If you want, like if you had an attorney, this would be your attorney's turn to ask you some questions. Since you don't have an attorney, you can basically give me your side of the story right now, or you can wait. And you can wait until it's your turn to put on evidence, and then you could call yourself as a witness and tell me your side of the story then. So what'd you rather do? Tell me your side of the story now or later?
I'll just give my statement right now as the timeline as far as like what we were talking about this whole time with Miss Santiago's side. I'll say my side of the story and go in the general timeline.
Go for it.
So most of it was referencing from the time I received my personal injury lawsuit and what caused that, where I was working. Okay, I was working at Performance Top Drives for almost 4 years. My accident happened in April of 2019. It was not at work. I was on my way home from work. An 18-wheeler cut in front of me, straddled both lanes. I had to slam on the brakes. The one behind me came up and clipped me as well. And then I got sent off careening across 2 lanes. It herniated 2 of my discs in my neck and my back. I went through physical therapy, steroid shots. I went through the process of eliminating what was necessary to be able to justify the fact that it was not helping and I needed to have surgery. I did work for a slight period of time between the months of April and July of 2019 because the litigation hadn't fully started yet. It was still in the beginning stages. But once I started seeing the doctor, they had recommended that I don't do physical activity. And at that time, I had taken the doctor's recommendations. I was put on light duty in that period of time that I was working between April and July. And in July is when my surgery was scheduled for my back. So my surgery for my back was in July. I recovered, and my surgery for my neck, where I received 2 artificial discs, was in September. And then for the next
You should have to talk in
year
different
and a half
voices to make it entertaining, so you don't have to just sit and
or
listen to 'em.
so, almost 2 years, we were going through the litigation process. And in that time, COVID also happened. I was receiving a third-party funding that was going to come off. It was a loan. So I had to pay interest on every single installment in order to get the surgeries accomplished and everything, because also I didn't have health insurance. So that's also part of the fees and everything that came off of the top of my personal injury lawsuit. And all the interest charges and so on is what made my settlement less.
And
So
dollar
I
amount-
didn't actually start,
I'm going to interrupt you
Yes,
because
sir.
it's a good time for me to ask this question. What was the dollar amount that you received from your settlement?
absolutely. The dollar amount, it was 441 or 447. And where those assets were spread out to, I put the down payment of the house, the total cost of the down payment, and there was also, we did inspections. Just for the down payment and closing costs on the house, it was 127 and change. Almost 128,000. The down payment itself was 120,000. And then we also paid extra for a mold inspection to be done to the house because we had some concerns of bringing a brand new baby in the home and making sure, because there was some black mold, we wanted to make sure that there was nothing in the house that would be detrimental to the baby's health. So we had that done. I had financed my 2020 Dodge 2500 Mega Cab Limited through a dealership in Floresville. Originally, it was financed. And then after a couple weeks, I paid it completely off. So that way I didn't have to worry about it. And the main reason why I got rid of it was because of the fact that at that time, the fuel systems were having to be replaced. It could cost an upwards of $20,000 plus, and sometimes in certain cases, it could not be warranted. So I did not see keeping the truck to be justifiable and incur that expense to be able to be taken out of my account. So at that
Doesn't sound
time,
right.
Miss Santiago and I had conversed and came to the conclusion that I should trade my truck in, get a downgrade, and get her a new vehicle, because the current vehicle that she was driving at the time, which was a 2013 Tahoe, we wanted more space. Obviously, we were having another child, so it allowed the kids to sit in the back further and still be able to have storage. She had stated that she really liked the Escalade, and so considering I paid so much for my truck, I tried to get something that was in the range to where I would get something back out of it. She was completely aware of the check that I received back from that, and it was roughly $12,000 because I had had a phone conversation with her about it that day. She was aware of everything. She was home, and I drove 4 hours to Houston, Texas to trade my truck in. She was aware of everything because I always told her everything. Because if I didn't, she would also ask me. Because she was very analytical in knowing every little detail during.
Okay, I need a break from him talking just for a second. Just FYI, you had mentioned this, and I kind of got the impression that you were thinking it should be split evenly. And just so you know, Texas does have a fault divorce, and domestic violence is one of the things that can cause a fault divorce, and that results in the distribution of assets being unequitable. And she did mention that at some point. I don't know if it's before or after, somewhere in one of these videos, that they are seeking unequitable distribution of assets. I don't think she says based on, the no fault divorce, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason why.
Any part of the relationship. So, I mean, she was fully aware of that. And after that, I had purchased it was a white Dodge 3500 dually. It was completely stock. I was going to put the parts into it that I wanted to put into it, and that was going to be my truck. And then I had seen another one come up for sale that already had all that work done. I wasn't going to have to pay a shop. So I had conversed with her in regards to buying that truck, and she was in full accord with that. We had no disagreement in regards to that. So we drove 4 hours to Waco together and purchased that truck. Drove it back home. The deal was is that she was fully aware that I was going to sell the white dually.
Right, and all this money was coming out of the proceeds from your personal injury lawsuit.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, my sole assets, because personal injury lawsuit funds in the state of Texas are considered one's sole assets and cannot be deemed at all as marital assets. And also,
Googled.
this, even if in the state of Texas, even if there are both names on the deed of the house cannot be deemed as marital assets, because if it was purchased with one person's sole assets, it cannot be deemed as marital assets. Therefore,
Right. Mr.
during
Burdick,
this whole case,
yeah, you'll have an opportunity
I'm
to
just
argue.
saying, I'm stating a fact,
I don't need
sir.
you to tell me the
I'm
law.
not arguing. I'm just
You know,
stating.
the front seat of your big boy
I'm
truck.
stating something in the
Right.
state of Texas.
Right, but listen to me for just a second. This is something that's more appropriate for a closing argument, to argue the law to me.
Yeah.
Right now,
no,
I just need to know the facts. The facts are that it
I
came
just
from
want you to know
your
the law.
account with a personal
love
injury,
it.
and what did you buy with it? And then
Yes.
later we can talk about who
Yes.
gets. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Also in that time frame, we had purchased a bedroom set for the house after we had moved in. I purchased a Tempur-Pedic mattress, adjustable as well. I paid cash for that. I continuously drew funds from the Frost Bank account and switched them over to the Bank of America account for her full use, because I gave her that card and she had that card in her wallet on a daily basis. She took numerous trips to San Marcos, Texas, to go to the outlet malls with her mother, going to the Gucci, Prada, and Michael Kors and all the name brand clothing stores. One day I had driven from my job in New Braunfels to San Marcos, and she tried to get me to let her buy a $1,400 pair of sandals. She also received a $2,000 Louis Vuitton for her birthday. I bought her numerous things
investment.
from my assets. And she received plenty of things. Anything that that's why I gave her my card. She's saying she didn't have access to anything. The only thing that she didn't have control of was paying the bills, because I had all the bills on auto draft from my accounts. I had it already set up. I had been managing the finances for over 10 years of our relationship and had no issues. So that is, I'm literally stating the fact that she said that she didn't have access to any of the funds. At a general time frame, she had $10,000 in that account from week to week.
He's saying you
I
did share
handed her
with
mother $5,000 cash.
and that makes him
I
a good person.
sent her sister $3,800 cash, which are some of the funds that she used to get from the state of Texas to New York. That I was coerced because of the fact that we had been talking for numerous months prior that we wanted to help her sister move down from the state of Connecticut to get her out of the bad place that she was in. And I was in full accordance to help her. I paid her mother. I gave her money, her mother, over $2,000 to stay home and not work because she was 62 years old and physically her health was deteriorating. I bought a $4,700 car for her brother with those assets. I bought assets for my dad because of the fact that I wanted to help everyone around me out of the goodness of my heart, because of the fact that I came from nothing and I wasn't just going to spend everything on myself, because I'm not selfish. That's why I bought my kids an 8,000.
Uh-oh. He dropped.
You get booted when you tell a lie.
All right, Mr. Burdick, you dropped there for just a second. So where you left off was,
It booted me out of the.
yeah, you dropped off of the,
Hold on one second, sir.
Yeah, you dropped off for whatever reason. Can
I
On
can't
his
hear
dollar
anybody,
store
Judge.
phone.
you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you dropped off. The last thing we heard was something about you bought the
Amanda,
kids
honey.
$8,000 for something, and that's the last thing we heard.
Yeah,
And then you
I
disappeared.
bought her brother a car. I give
His
her
name?
mother several $1,000.
Austin.
In
Where's
that
the
time
city of
range when I
Austin?
received my settlement, I gave her sister almost $4,000 and was gonna give her more to help them down to Texas. So I mean, just right there, you're talking over $20,000 out of my personal assets that I helped her family members with. Just her family members alone. And then I also helped my dad because I flew up there in New York, and that's how I got my tattoo on my arm because he did it. That was in October before she had left. I spent roughly $3,000 on him, maybe $1,000 on my Aunt Colleen to help her buy a new light fixture in her house because no one else had the time to do it. I helped numerous people. I gave
He's a good
people out on the
person.
street that were homeless in the pouring rain a couple
All right,
hundred bucks
Mr. Burdett, I'm going to try to rein you in a little bit because
Thank
hold
you,
on, for
Judge.
all that
Thank
money
you.
that you're giving away to other people, I can't do anything about that. I need to learn about the assets that are still around and how that stuff's going to be divided. So if you gave some money to strangers and to family, it's gone and there's nothing I can do about that.
I understand that. I'm not seeking reimbursement for anything.
Right. But my
Listen,
job is to divide.
stating where the funds are.
Stop. You can't talk over anybody because I'm not able to hear anything you're saying, Mr. Burdick.
Tell him.
All right, Mr.
Gina.
Burdett, my job is to divide up the things that we still have here. So that's why I'm trying to ask you, could you please give me testimony regarding that? Because those are things I can help with.
Did it?
All the money that you gave away, well, it's just gone. So you can tell me about it, but it doesn't help me make my decision in your case. Okay?
You repeat that last part, Judge.
The testimony you're
Well,
giving
it's
me
all
about
gone
the
now.
things that you gave away doesn't help me make a decision in your case because that money's gone and there's nothing I can do about it.
State where the assets went because there was a lot more detail compared to what she had mentioned previously.
Right.
If he was classified as disabled or applying for disability, there would be an exception for him to get Medicaid with that big of a settlement. There's certain kind of exceptions. I don't know specifically he would qualify, but I do know there's a lot of exceptions for getting Medicaid when you're disabled.
All I was trying to do.
Waiting.
You asked
Right.
for my statement, just giving my statement.
Right. But it's not helping me make my decision. So I'm trying to get you to help me make my decision, which is really what you want to do.
I mean, I have nowhere. I've been employed since September. I have nowhere to go right now. I have no funds
Should
to
be for
move
coffee.
anywhere. I'll pretty much be homeless by the end of the month because I can't get any funds from the purchase of the house to be able to even buy like a travel trailer. I've been selling off numerous things of my own personal assets. I sold a couple vehicles and took major losses on them so that way I could try and help pay some of the finances. I did make a couple mortgage payments in the beginning when I could. I tried to do everything. I put in over 20 job applications through Indeed. I've like I said, I've reached out across the country, across the state, asked numerous friends if they know anywheres. Like, I'm trying, but she had stated previously she was unaware of any further injuries that I've heard. That's false because just about 2 months ago, I fell in the shower and slammed my buttocks on the hard shower floor, and I had to go to the emergency room. My stepmother and my mother were both aware of that, and Luli was made aware of that because I know for a fact because my mother called her. The reason I know is because I was talking to my best friend that I've known since the 3rd grade, because he's the one that called my mother. My stepsister, which is Teresa's daughter, also was aware.
Okay, what should I do about your children, Mr. Burdett?
in regards to.
Yeah.
Well, I
remember
have
the
to make a
kids?
decision on who they're going to live with and what type of visitation you're going to have and what sort of child support you're going to pay.
I don't see how I could be mandated to pay more child support right now when I don't even have a job and I haven't even been able to barely pay what you're mandating to me to pay now. So I don't understand how it could be justifiable to make me deem me to pay more. It's going to put me more at risk of just getting put in jail because I won't be able to pay it until I can get a job.
I've never understood that argument. Like, what happens to the kids if you don't pay it? Like, oh, somebody else is supposed to pick up the slack, or the kids just go without? Like, what is your logic in this situation?
I literally, because of my physical injury from 2 months ago, I'm having to like pretty much restart all over and change careers because I can't do anything physically strenuous anymore. I've been trying to. I was just a couple of days ago, I was at the Pleasanton Truck Company. I was going to start doing a motor swap because it was one of the things that I could do locally. And I worked on it for a few hours in the sun and the heat. And the next day, my back, my shoulders, everything was killing me. My sciatic nerve has been giving me problems. I've been referred to physical therapy, but it was all the way in San Antonio.
You know what? When you haven't worked in a long time, you've had surgery and you didn't really do anything after, and then you go put in like a hard day's work, shit's gonna hurt. It's probably gonna hurt for a couple days, and then you got to keep doing it, and then it's gonna keep hurting until you get used to it, and then you build up the tolerance, and then it'll stop hurting.
Which is unaccomplishable. The assets from the sale of the house and everything are what's going to help me also be able to afford just to be able to even get a travel trailer and
Are they
pay
made
off
of diamonds?
the debt. I
So
mean,
how do you, what do
wants
you,
half of the sale of the house. Then, I mean, obviously, in marital assets, you also have marital debt. So why isn't she responsible for half of the debt?
No, when the judge mentioned his kids, all he wants to talk about is having to pay for them. Remember, he's lost without them. The judge is asking, seeing them, everything else. He doesn't want to talk about that. He just wants to talk about the child support.
so how do you think I should divide the proceeds from the house?
Well, if she wants to keep the Escalade and trade it in, I'm fine with that because for her to drive it down here, it is what it is. She would get more if she brought it down here as compared to New York. She would get more for it, or taking at least out of state because they're more common down in the city. If she went down to the city and got a value assessed on it, she would probably get a lot more because a lot of companies use those vehicles for private taxi service.
So you're okay with me?
I don't have a problem with her. Like I stated months ago when we went through the hearing, if she wants to keep the Escalade, then she's going to get less of a percentage from the proceeds of the house. The value of the Escalade should automatically be deducted from her 50. If she wants 50-50, that 30,000 should be automatically deducted off that 50-50 and should go to my pocket. Also, she needs to assume half of the debt. And I can submit all the records to Ms. Harkins today. I will gladly send them over through email on every single statement for proof of that. Because, like I said, marital assets, you also assume marital debt.
Thank you so much.
You assume half of my debt when you're in a marriage with me. I paid for everything for 12 years. And now you want me to keep paying more beyond like what a child support? Child support is not for broken relationships. I was a sole provider for 12 years. Now you're saying that I need to keep providing right now when I'm at a state.
I'm done. You take over. It'll be okay. Tag, you're it. Thank you, Walkie. When you catch up to this point, welcome. And thank you for the support. It really means a lot. Aw, Pop Mom with their hippos. Thank you guys. I love you all. You're the best.
I can't even financially get a job. That's not justifiable.
Dude, start a YouTube channel.
When I'm able to financially recover, get a job, get on the books, I would be
Just
glad to support my children at the whatever rate is distinguished in the courts. I have no problem paying child support. But the fact that I'm being mandated to right now is putting me at risk of going to jail. Like, how is that conducive?
Which one?
I understand she has a full support system up there. She has numerous adults to go to for financial support, mental, emotional support, support for
Judge
to
is over it.
babysit my kids, everything. I have nobody. I have no family. They've all written me off and took it and adopted her in. I have nobody down here. I was left with literally no family members. I have nowhere to go. I have to try and figure it all out on my own when she has a full support system. So as far as in regards to the proceeds of the house, no, I don't agree with 50-50 if she wants to take the Escalade. And I also think that she should be responsible for every single half a bit of debt that has been incurred during the time of this so-called marriage that she wants to claim, which in New York state law, there is no common law marriage. And we were residing in the state of New York in 2013 when she manipulated me and coerced me into dating it back then. We didn't move to the state of Texas until 2015. And not only that, she's claiming that we split up in February, so that way it can be within that 90-day time frame. No, I stated to her back in December, if she didn't come back to try and reconcile the marriage, that was it. And that was at the end of December. Her opinion and her claims are false. And she's lying about it so that way she can manipulate the system to get things into her full advantage. She's not making everyone aware of what she has committed during the relationship and only pointing out what I've done. She has also committed all 5 forms of domestic violence, which I had identified from the domestic violence hotline during a 3-hour recorded conversation. And the person at the other end told me from my story and what I told them, they literally told me that she has committed all 5 forms of domestic violence. She's messaged numerous women across fake profiles. She's made fake phone numbers to pretend to be other people and message me.
How is any of this relevant?
3 months into our relationship, she made a fake phone number and pretended to be my ex from 2 years prior. That's entrapment. Also, 2 weeks prior to my first son being conceived, she stopped taking birth control and refused to take it.
Judge, objection to all of
I
this.
had a full shoebox.
Right,
Hold on,
hang on.
let me finish my statement.
Well, there's an objection. So once Ms. Harkins objects, then I have to address that. She's saying that what you're talking about is really not relevant to the decisions I have to make. So I'm going to ask that you move on to another subject.
Okay.
I don't have any other subject.
Just like
All I
they
have
asked
is
me about
anger.
medication and me being on medication, she was also prescribed numerous medications for her anxiety, depression, and everything else. And she refused to take them. I had a shoebox full and I have a picture of it.
Yeah,
And she
she's got
hasn't
her
been on
shit
medication or
together.
gotten therapy for her own problems for numerous years now. But yet, everything is getting pointed at me about my mental health issues. But what about hers? Because she had mental health issues before she ever got in a relationship with me. Her ex cheated on her. Her stepdad cheated on her mom. She was surrounded by her mom constantly with the narcissism and the spiteful and the vindictive. And all she did was do that to me throughout a period of 12 years, causing emotional abuse, mental abuse. She's thrown things at me, hit me. She's also committed domestic violence. But no one wants to identify that. She also had an assault charge during the time that I was arrested. Also, the allegations to do with her mother, those were all hearsay. I was pulling away from them when supposedly her mom got hit. My kids were right there. It was on the night of my birthday. She instigated a fight because she coerced me into taking them out, because she guilted me into taking all of them out, because the kids felt the kids wanted to spend the day with me, which I understood. But there was an argument the night prior to where I was not home. I was working, because during that time frame also, she had spoken to another man behind my back that she was friends with in high school that lived in Castroville.
It sounds like they had a completely toxic relationship, and it's a good thing that it's ending. I don't know why there's so much animosity and what any of this is really fixing. By the way, did anybody else see my earbud? It literally popped out of my ear and went flying. It was quite impressive.
So I was also dealing with infidelity at that time upon her behalf.
Hey, Food Fairy.
She's also lied and stolen numerous items from the so-called woman that she helped, Joanna Newsom. And I've also, just so that way the court is also aware, and Luli, so that you're aware, those numerous items that were in our home that were stolen from her, that were given to her by her deceased husband, have been returned to her. The Mark Roberts elves. How about the massage chair that you never paid for? The $6,000 massage chair that's sitting in our living room right now.
This is what
All
I
the
got
Christmas
frustrated.
decorations that you referenced that are stolen from her.
You shouldn't be able to go at
You,
her like
you don't
this.
want to
You're supposed
identify
give
all those
testimony.
things that you didn't pay for? How about all the things that your mother stole from her during the same time frame?
Her attorney should be saying something.
That she sent to your sister in Connecticut. Also to other children too, like Guadalupe and Georgie.
not
She
allowed
sent things to
to.
multiple people, and I helped take those packages to the post office for her because she couldn't even carry them, nor did she have a vehicle.
He's supposed to be testifying
Huh.
like his own. He's not asking her questions.
So in reference to that, Miss Harkins, you're aiding and abetting a criminal. I still have some of that stolen property at my house right now.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Being the massage chair, I tried to give it back to her. She did not ask me. She did not want to take it because it was too big.
It is not what it's.
She said it could stay there. I paid for every single item in cash, and Miss Newsom will testify to that because she personally came to my house to retrieve those items.
The only one
Those
paying
Mark
attention is
Roberts
the poor
elves
court
that she
reporter.
asked you about, Luli,
Over
those were
it.
given to her the day before her husband passed away from her husband. That's why she asked about them during the times that you were going through her storage units to take things out to sell for her.
She muted him.
She told me
She's
that you
watching
asked.
a video.
That she asked you if you had seen them, and you said no. And you kept them hidden, just like all the white folding chairs. I still have 6 of those at my house. She picked up about 5 of them.
What are you
So,
doing?
just so you're aware, Luli, Joanna knows a lot of
Judge,
people.
I'm going to object. He's talking to my client. He's
I'm
supposed to be
not
testifying.
going to say anything else.
All right. Does that conclude your testimony?
Sure.
Ms. Harkins, any questions?
No question, Your Honor.
Ms. Harkins, do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, I need to recall my client briefly. I apologize, but we need to discuss the debt.
All right, Ms. Santiago, you
Stop.
remain under oath to tell the truth. You may proceed, Ms. Harkins.
Every
Ms.
time she
Santiago,
recalls-
very briefly, please. This Bank of America debt, when is the first time that you heard of that?
Actually, when him and I were together before I had left, he didn't have any debt. So I'm unaware of this debt. Yes, I do know about the Ashley's furniture.
Okay, the Bank of America debt is the first time you heard of that when he referenced it in an email. To me, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know about
No,
that.
to me. Okay, and the Ashley furniture debt, that is a debt that y'all incurred during your marriage for the furniture that Mr. Burdett has, correct?
Yeah, yes, correct.
So this Best Buy credit card, the Home Depot card, were you aware of those debts?
No,
Have you seen any credit card statements about those debts?
no,
Do you have any idea when those were incurred or what for?
no.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Any questions of this witness, Mr. Burdett?
He just wiped his mouth on his shirt.
Sure. Hey, Luli,
Thank
do you
so
remember
much.
me buying all my Milwaukee tools when you were still living in the state of Texas at our
Wait,
house?
I don't know what numbers those are. 10.
I remember you purchasing Milwaukee tools and coming home with Milwaukee
Oh,
tools, yes, but I don't know how you got them.
During that time frame, you were well aware that I made the Home Depot credit card account.
Wait, he
Also,
purchased
the Best
Milwaukee
Buy credit
tools
card
used
account
for
was
work.
to buy your radar
And she has
that's
to pay for
sitting
it?
in your Escalade that you're driving
Actually,
right now.
that radar you bought for
So you
yourself,
were
and it,
fully, that radar
Mr.
was
Burdick,
purchased
Mr.
through
Burdick,
Best Buy credit card. So you
Mr.
were
Burdick.
fully aware of that account.
Mr. Burdick, you can't talk over her.
Sorry.
So ask the questions,
It keeps
let her.
glitching out also.
Okay, it's more difficult on Zoom, that's for sure. But ask your question, let her answer it. When she
Sorry.
finishes, then you can go on to the next question. All right.
He's probably been doing this to her for
that
the
radar that
past
you
10
had
years.
purchased was actually a radar that you purchased for yourself. What it was is it was in the vehicle at the time that I had, the day that before the day of the incident that happened, which is why I stayed at my mom's house. The police were at our house and they gave me time to take my things, and I put them, which you gave them an okay for me to take the Escalade, and that's where all of my stuff went. And obviously the radar was in that vehicle at the time.
But that means you were fully aware of the accounts
Like,
because
the
you were
radar?
living
Really? That's what we're gonna fight
in
about?
that house during the time frame that I acquired those accounts.
Your
Was that
answer,
a
Ms.
question?
Santiago? Yes, your answer.
Can you ask the question again?
No, he's gonna take a hit off his vape first.
How were you
Hold on.
not aware of these accounts during the time frame that you were living in the house?
Alex, I'm gonna answer it. I barely saw you
I know,
like
I
the
love it.
entire time. I barely even saw you.
Love it.
I didn't
love
even
it.
know what accounts you made, where you went, what you did. You blew money that I didn't even know who you gave it to. All your money is gone, and I don't even know where it went. You're claiming that I took a radar when you bought the radar for yourself. I never claimed the radar. You never gifted me a radar. That is untrue. The only reason why the radar is in the vehicle is because that's the vehicle that I brought up here. It's the only vehicle I had.
It's not what it was pertaining to. It was pertaining to the subject that you were aware of these accounts that I had made during the time frame that you were still residing in our home.
No, I was not aware of your accounts as I was residing in the home.
The little pear in the super sticker is so cute. Thank
Then
you.
why
again.
is it that I was on the phone with you during the day that I bought that radar while I was at Best Buy?
Come on.
No, I don't recall that. You being on the phone with me as you're purchasing a radar.
Okay, that's fine. You're stating that you didn't know my whereabouts and where I was going on a constant basis when you had Life 360 on both of our phones.
What you're speaking, what do you mean by as I didn't know about your whereabouts? Did I ask that? I don't know.
You stated just a few minutes ago that you were unaware of my whereabouts on a consistent
Oh, and
basis.
what you did? Yes, because Life 360 had been turned off at that time.
Yeah. Why did he
You don't
spend
remember?
a couple $100 on a radar on a credit card?
Mm-hmm. We had taken Life 360 off of each other's phones.
Okay. Regardless, there's text message records that prove that I told you exactly where I was going on a consistent basis.
Is that true or not true, Ms. Santiago?
No.
Next question, Mr. Burdick.
You're stating that you didn't know where any of these funds were going on a consistent basis when I told you where these funds were going. How is that a realistic claim?
Alex, you did not tell me where these funds are going. I was not, you didn't tell me about banks. I did not have access to your banks. I didn't have your email or your password to get into your bank accounts. You did claim that I had a card. Yes, I did have a Bank of America card that I used for gas and for food purchases. Anything other than that, I would ask you. And even if you go through all your bank statements, there's only been at least 2 or 3 times that I actually use your card to purchase things, as far as like anything for the kids, where I had went to the mall and purchased clothes because Bella's clothes were not fitting at the time. You told me it was okay. I even asked you about that time of being able to purchase, and you said it was okay.
Okay, I need to take another break, so we'll be back at 3:50.
Tea time. Oh, did I forget to trim this one out?
All right, everyone, we are back.
Rochelle, thank you.
All right, I believe where we were was that
not
Mr.
smart
Bautista was
sometimes.
asking some questions of Miss Santiago. So, Mr. Burdett, if you have any other questions, you may proceed now. And Miss Santiago, let me remind you that you remain under oath to tell the truth.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, they
But Santiago,
do.
you stated that you had
Unbelievable.
no knowledge of any record of to do with the bank accounts. Then how is it that you had the Bank of America app and the Bank of America card? But yet
Yes.
you're stating that you had no knowledge.
I stated to you multiple times that I could not get into your Bank of America card when we were living in Texas together. And I could not remember the password. I could not get in any of your personal information or anything like that. Plus, half the time you would always change your passwords. So
They're literally going to fight about this for 10 minutes. But just to address Carol's point, I don't think it's so much believing her as understanding what he's doing. His behavior is very textbook for like emotionally abusive partner, where he's not taking responsibility for everything, telling her it's her fault, and all the messages he was leaving her and everything else. So I don't think it's so much like she's telling the truth and she didn't know. She probably did know some of it, but it's more she probably went through hell the past few years, and that's more where the sympathy is coming from, my opinion.
During the time frame that we were together, we had numerous situations where you had issues. So I don't get where you're coming. Why is it that you're stating something different from what actually happened?
No purpose, just
as
like
far as your card,
Yes,
because I
when?
wasn't allowed, you had full control over all the finances. Like, I could not control the finances. The only thing that I had control over is whenever you decided to give me your card. I didn't have your card 24/7 at all. Your Bank of America card, you had that card on you. You would give it to me every once in a while, yes, and that I did use it to purchase food or whatever things that I needed, or gas in my vehicle, absolutely, because of course I still took the kids, whether it was to school, whether it was to appointments, I took care of all of that.
And why is it that I gave you my card on a continuous basis and I held on to cash? So that way, in case you needed it, in case you needed to go anywhere, you had the funds available, and you also had the app on your phone, because we had ran into numerous situations where you didn't know how much money was in the account and you accidentally overspent. So why do you keep saying that you had no knowledge of this when you did?
Because
a lot of us have.
First of all, you would only put, you stated before that you would put 10 grand into the account. That's not true, because that's why you would have to keep putting money into the account, because you would only put at least between $500 to $1,000 into the account. So by the time, let's say for an example, there was one time where I was putting gas and I couldn't put gas, and you said, oh, I gotta switch, I gotta put funds into the account, because there wasn't any more funds. It was bit by bit. You didn't sit there and put $10,000 a month into that account.
Then why is it that I had bank statements that prove otherwise? During the time frame that you were in possession of that card,
You have two Bank of America cards. Which one are you speaking about? Because there's the Bank of America that the card that I'm talking about, and then there's also the I believe it's a Bank of America credit card that you use, and then the Frost you
We're
got.
just speaking from the debit account.
Stop. One at a
Get him,
time.
Gina, get him.
One at a time.
We're only speaking in regards to the debit account that I would transfer funds from the Frost bank account to. We're not speaking in regards to the credit card account because that account has never been mentioned yet.
Well, I mentioned that bank card because I know you have two banks, two card under that same bank. I don't know exactly how much you had in each bank account. You're sitting here saying that I had full access. I did not have full access because I may have downloaded the app at one point, but as far as a password, I always kept forgetting the password to log in to make sure, because you would always tell me, make sure you have enough. But I would always tell you, Alex, I can never remember your password. I don't know what it is. And I tried logging in and it wouldn't let me.
Well, that's
Okay,
funny
write it in
because my
fast. Let's
password
move on.
never changed throughout all of those
Oh,
years, and
here we
it
go.
still hasn't changed. The password is still the same. So why are you saying that when I gave you the password numerous times when you would forget?
Alex, I told you multiple times when we were living together, I could not get into the account. I don't know what more you want for me to tell you. I couldn't get into the account. Why do you want me to get into the account anyways?
You're stating that you had no control over the finances or anything when you had full access.
I did
All
not
right,
have
all right.
full access to the
Hang on.
account.
Stop. I've heard it. Yeah, Mr. Burdett says that you had full access. Ms. Santiago says she didn't have full access. That's going to be the story. So we just need to move on to something else.
Yep. And
I've watched it twice. I got nothing
trying to
left.
figure out how to work this. Stated that you had no control over the finances, but yet during the time of our relationship, you complained to me numerous times about the finances, and I literally would drive around with almost nothing. Why is it that you're stating the complete opposite?
Sacrificed.
What do you mean you would drive around with nothing? I'm not
Prior
understanding
to
that.
my settlement, when it was just my money, this is in reference to prior, okay? You're
When
stating
he
that
was
you
making
had no
60, 70 grand a
control
year.
over anything, which is
Right.
completely false. Because you complained on numerous accounts that I was spending too much, and I literally would take one from home and everything. So why are you stating differently now?
Stating differently as far as me not being in control of the finances, or are you talking about you not having enough money?
You're saying that you had no
No, he just
control
wants
over
to
money, or
argue.
you didn't have any money, or you didn't have any passwords or anything. I gave you my passwords, so why are you stating differently?
All
I
right,
gave you
hold
my
on, hold
accounts.
on.
Why are you stating
Mr.
differently?
Mr. Burdett, stop.
Yeah.
I've heard enough on the subject. You say that she had access and control. She says she does not have access and control. The answer is not going to change. So we just need to move on to a different
Well,
subject.
no, I'm just. Well, okay.
But no, I just wanted to talk about it. I want her to admit it. I'm going to bully her
I don't
into
have
admitting
anything
it.
else.
All right. Any further questions, Ms. Harkins?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any other witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor. My best.
Yeah,
Do you rest
it's
your
like
case?
A couple arguing.
And
It's
Mr. Burdett, do you have
ridiculous.
any witnesses to call?
No, sir.
Do you rest your case?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Harkins, I'll hear closing arguments. How long do you think you will need for closing arguments?
Maybe 5 to 10 minutes, Judge. I don't think very long. I'm going to be succinct.
All right. So, Mr. Burdett, I'm going to limit both you and Ms. Harkins to 10 minutes for closing arguments. That's basically where you're going to ask the court how you want them to rule. So do you understand that you'll have to limit your arguments to 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
That's my huge issue is he did not take responsibility for a single thing. And he also is not fighting for his kids. He's fighting to be right. He's fighting about things that were in the past and done and over with that you can't change. Shouldn't he be fighting to get visitation of his kids and all these other things that he can change going forward in the future? No. It's just he's fighting out of anger, and that's
Do you
frustrating.
understand that?
So pretty much what you're telling me, I'm just trying to clarify. What we're going to be stating with the closing argument is what we would like to see this
Silence
be
can
end
be
up
the answer.
as the final result.
Just saying.
Right. So you're going to ask me, Judge, I want you to rule this way and I want you to rule that way. Mr. Harkins will get to go first. And she's done this before. So just sort of watch what she does. And that's probably a good example she
Yes,
might
sir.
set for you and how you can do it.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Harkins, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, I just want to start by talking about what I think is the most important part of this case.
Yeah, you
And
can't do
that
that.
is the history of abuse on the part of Mr. Burdett. And that to me runs through every aspect of this case that the court cannot forget. And today I think we got sidetracked and it would be easy to forget the history on this case, but at the temporary orders hearing, you issued a protective order for a reason over my client and her children. And you heard some of the evidence that was admitted at the last hearing today. And what you haven't heard again today is Mr. Burdett refuting at all that he has been abusive to my client, that he has threatened his own life and threatened the life of his family, and that he, like I said, has been suicidal numerous times. And he admitted today that he really has not sought the mental health treatment that we all said he needed at the last hearing. He needs ongoing mental health treatment before he can be in his children's lives. And it's not going to cut it for him to go on a self-help journey, Judge. So at this time, the evidence is clear. He said it so himself, that he's not deemed safe to be around his children. So my client is asking for the conservatorship and visitation to stay the same as in temporary orders. And Judge, she's asking for a geographic restriction, ideally to the contiguous counties from both Atascosa and her county, Otsego County in New York. Regarding child support, Judge, the amount that she's receiving now is not enough. I mean, that's $174 a month is enough for diapers for the month and some food. So she's asking, he's not working. I really did not hear any clear evidence of why he's not able to work. If he can do some mechanic work, he can mow lawns, then I don't see why he can't work, except maybe his mental health. So at minimum, she's asking for the minimum wage amount, Judge, not half, but the minimum wage amount. As far as medical assistance, of course, she's carrying the kids on Medicaid. Judge, I want to move to the division of the assets. I want to start by directing you to our petition, which references the fact that my client is seeking a disproportionate share of the assets. It's not really clear what that amount would be. So I kind of want to walk you through what it appears the parties have, and we need to talk about that personal injury settlement. Judge, Mr. Burdett is not correct on the characterization of injury settlements. First of all, recoveries in an injury claim are treated like any other property in a divorce. So we have to approach them utilizing the provisions in the family code. First of all property is presumed to be community. It requires clear and convincing evidence that something is separate property, and that burden falls on Mr. Burdett, the person claiming that something is separate property. Every settlement that I've ever seen mixes all damages together, whether it's for pain and suffering, medical expenses, lost earning capacity. There has been no evidence in this case presented that that was done so in Mr. Burdett's situation. So then what we're dealing with is a lump sum payment. Judge, the family code says in section 3.001 that separate property consists of the third line references the recovery for personal injuries sustained by the spouse during marriage, except for recovery for loss of earning capacity during marriage. So in Mr. Burdett's case, it's been testified to, I don't want to say the wrong number, several numbers were thrown around. He received maybe $437,000. I think that's what was said. But Judge, there's been no presentation on his part about what of that lump sum is separate property. So he has not rebutted the fact that lost wages are community property.
He's like, oh shit, I
In
didn't read
addition,
that part.
Judge,
I only read the
regarding the
headline.
house, Mr. Burditt's actions about the house are actually counter to the idea that it is separate property. He, in signing the deed, put it in both names as spouses. He has allowed Ms. Santiago to make payments towards the mortgage on that house. He has continually communicated with me to her, hey, our house is going to be foreclosed on. That house is community property, Judge, and my client is allowed to seek a portion of the funds that they're going to get for that house.
Welcome, Miss Kay.
Whether his personal injury money was used on the down payment of that house or not. And so it's our argument, Judge, that there was a portion of that settlement that was separate property for lost, let me get it right, Judge, because it's not lost earnings, it's lost earning capacity. And lost earning capacity is the diminished ability to earn a living. Mr. Burditt has not countered that at all in his testimony. He has not said, no, I worked the whole time and I received my normal wages the whole marriage and my earning capacity was not diminished. So it's clear that a portion of this settlement was for lost wages. You're really not supposed to calculate it with what would the wages have been, but there was testimony that his wages were about $60,000 a year. So my client believes that a portion of the money put down on the house was community property. So she is asking for 50% or half of that equity.
About what she's asking
And Judge,
for.
I believe that she could ask for more because I think she is entitled to a disproportionate share based on Mr. Burditt's fault in the breakup of the marriage. She's clearly going to have conservatorship of the children. Hopefully, if you're seeing what I'm seeing, the disparity of earning power. She's testified that she's been a stay-at-home mom and she's getting back on her feet. She needs this money to start her life over after the years of abuse. So in sum, Judge, she's asking for half of the sale of the home, also for the Escalade. Now, I know that the Escalade is an issue because, and I've explained that to my client, it's not clear where money came from and we don't know anything about this settlement. But Judge, we know that a portion of it was community property. And based on the amount that he received, a good chunk of it should be at least, I would say at least 90,000 should be considered community property. So she would be receiving far less than that if she's awarded the Escalade and half of the proceeds from the sale of the home. In addition, she's asking that tax refund be split. The only way I know to go about doing that is sending the IRS the tax return. I mean, the divorce decree. I told her I don't know if that will work. Also reimbursement for her half of the mortgage payments that have been made on their community property home and the items that we listed in her testimony in the home. And Judge, this is more than fair and equitable, and we're asking that you award my client these things today.
All right, Mr. Burditt, I had heard from Ms. Harkins and what she's requesting from the court. I'd like to hear a similar statement from you, and I'm limiting that to 10 minutes, and you may begin when you're ready.
Judge, I'm asking the court today to understand the fact that I don't have a home to live. I don't have a home to go to. I don't have a job right now. In order for me to even be able to acquire a home, I would need 3 times the amount of income. I stated just not too long ago, I had to go to the ER roughly 2 to 3 months ago, and it did damage to my back. I stated that I am making efforts to continue my mental health rehabilitation. I stated that yesterday I just made a phone call in regards to that and also my physical health. I also stated that I had to leave the current therapist because of conflict. And that is the only reason why, because that was the therapist that I was also seeing before she had left the state, and also the same therapist that she tried to have us do couples therapy with. So it caused a confliction. And also she was having conversation about me outside of the room, and she told me about it. So therefore,
I'm going to object.
I
None of
just-
this is in evidence.
Yes, so Mr. Burdett, hold on, let me stop the stopwatch. Mr. Burdett, you get to tell me, you don't
That's
get to
fine.
give me any new stories. You can tell me about the stories that you've already told
Okay.
me to help me make my decision.
Yes.
But any new stuff, that's too late for that, okay?
yes.
All right, you may continue.
Okay, yeah. Also the fact that my settlement, it was split up in sections. I have all the paperwork in regards to loss and mitigated wages. I have all the sales receipts in regards to any vehicles purchased through a dealership and the sales tax incurred, and all of the paperwork. It's sitting right at my house. I don't have a way to submit that paperwork through this because it is a cell phone. I don't have any digital forms to submit it. I also need to go through hundreds of papers in order to be able to get all of this organized. I'm also not a defense attorney that went to school for 2 to 4 years and has handled multiple cases. So I don't see how that, like, it's justifiable that I'm expected to be on her level and be able to represent certain things that I don't even know how to do. Also the fact, like I said, I've been unable to physically do anything. I tried to do some mechanic work. I was unable to because of my physical injury. I tried to do weed whacking and things like that to make money. I was unable to because of my physical injuries. I also stated that I am having to readjust and reset my life because I have to change careers to something that is less physically strenuous because of the current injury that I am sustaining, that I need to go to rehabilitation and pain management for, that I was referred to. Also, the fact is that my personal injury lawsuit was my sole individual assets. I don't understand how it's being classified as community asset. It was never community assets. It was in my bank account under my name solely. All of the
you
accounts
just
were in my name solely.
argued that she had access to it.
My earnings solely. I handed her the card. I gave her plenty of funds to be able to do whatever she wanted when I received my personal injury lawsuit. I have bank statements to prove it. For the wire transfers, for everything.
I don't think he's got to that point
I
yet.
have it all. And in
I think he just
regards
does.
to the kids, I literally stated,
Blame for everyone else.
I'm not trying to do this all on my own, in my own self-help. I said, for the past couple of weeks, I have had to, but I am continually trying to seek actual therapy through a licensed office for therapy. Also, the fact the petitioner in this case also should be seeking therapy, and also my children should be seeking therapy because of the fact of the things that they've seen throughout the years that have been committed on both behalves.
I wonder how long
It isn't
he'd go
just
if you
me
just let him go.
that's done anything in the relationship. Everyone's failing to
God.
recognize the fact that she has also committed domestic violence throughout 12 years. And she also
How's
tried
Bob
to
built?
take my daughter from me in the state of New York. And she did the same exact thing in December. Stated that she would never take my kids from me. And then turned around and did the complete opposite. Stated that she would be there for me even if I was broken and I was broke.
Sorry. I just need, like, it's so much. Especially when you've lived with someone similar to that, it's very difficult to listen to. I think this just hit the nail on the head completely. He makes these dramatic overtures and like these acts, and he's trying to push her to say, hey, yeah, I do care about you. And he doesn't realize that he's doing it the wrong way. Which has a lot to do with having mental health issues and needing therapy to get over these issues and fix things. It's a huge thing. But that's why he's making all of these extreme statements and saying, I want, my kid's name changed and I don't want to be a father and I don't want this, because he's expecting her to say, no, wait. And it's just not going to happen. The only way to fix him is therapy.
Didn't do that for me either. She fled when I was at the lowest point of my life, but yet quoted to stay by my side.
Doing it?
Numerous
in
years,
his
she
mind,
threatened to break up with me.
he's a victim.
Told her I didn't want to have any more kids because of the instability in the relationship. She still coerced and manipulated me into giving her another child. I have nothing to fall back on. I have no family. So I don't understand how she should be receiving more of this. Yes, she has my children. Yes, I understand I need to pay child support when I'm able to financially gain, a job and everything. But until that time,
So just wait.
how
They
am
don't
I
need
supposed to
food.
be able to financially regain just like she's trying to do when I'm literally having to switch careers to where I'm not doing anything labor intensive that doesn't even revolve around my career field? So just as she's having to reset, so am I.
You sacrifice for the kids.
So
Because that's what matters,
the
not
fact
you.
is she's got a perfectly running and driving vehicle. I don't. This vehicle that I'm driving is used. It's a 1999. It has 250,000+ miles on it. It needs maintenance. It needs to go to a shop. I can't do that mechanic work anymore because of the fact of my physical disabilities. It was a $60,000 vehicle. It only has 50 something thousand miles. It would last her for another 200,000 miles. It is made by General Motors, which is one of the cheapest vehicle companies to maintain. It's not a foreign vehicle. I know this because of my own mechanical experience. So her justification to trade it in and saying that it's not feasible to maintain because of the cost, that is not correct. Now, if she was driving a Mercedes, then I could understand that.
It doesn't matter.
Mr. Burdett, you have 3 minutes remaining.
And you've accomplished nothing.
And I just seek that the courts, if they grant her the vehicle in this case, that she receives less of a percentage in regards to the overall assets at the end of the sale of the house. To be where she receives a vehicle and a certain percentage to where the value of the vehicle is taken into account.
What about the 7
Of
other
that,
cars?
the splitting
Are
of the
those taken into
50%.
account?
Not only that, I think that it's only fair that debt that she was completely knowledgeable of before she left the state, because she had access to these accounts, that she be responsible for half that debt as well. Like the debt to do with the bedroom set, the debt that's on the
That
Bank
you
of America
have.
credit card that she was fully aware of, the Home Depot credit card that she was fully
For
aware
your
of because I
tools.
acquired those accounts.
So
The Home
wrong.
Depot card, I acquired that during the time where we were together. She was fully aware of everything. So in regards to that, I
She
feel
knew I
that
went
she
and
should only
spent this money
receive
on myself. So
roughly
she should have to pay half of
30%
it.
and the Escalade. Because I also have to hit the reset button. I also have to find a place to live. She has a place to live. She has multiple people to fall back on that is a full family support system. I don't. So how is it justifiable that she should receive more when she has a full family backing to fall back on? I don't.
She has your kids.
And in regards to the kids, I would at least, I'm just trying to plead that I should at least be able to speak to my children at this time through phone call. And I'm not seeking anything as far as in regards to visitation, because that's not even accomplishable for me right now. Obviously, I'm 1,800 miles away and I don't have a job and finances are not there to where I could even achieve that. So the only thing I would really like to do is just be able to talk to my kids, see how they're doing. I mean, I haven't seen my newborn son in like almost 10 months.
He's going to be a year old here in a couple months, and I'm not even going to be able to experience that. The most memorable moments of my child's life. And it's deemed justifiable that I'm not able to even be able to see like a video chat of him going through his first birthday or anything. Like that's not right. I'm a caring and loving father. Just because I had issues with her in the relationship does not mean that I was abusive to my children.
All right, Mr. Mr. Burdett, your time is up.
Yep.
All right, Ms. Harkins, you still got about 2 minutes left on your time if you'd like to give me a short rebuttal.
Judge, all I'll say is that I believe that Mr. Burdett's credibility is absolutely shot by his domestic violence proclivities, that he refuses to accept, acknowledge, take responsibility for. It's everyone else's fault. And that should be reflected in the division of the assets and the debts, because the cause of the divorce and what Ms. Santiago has gone through is rooted in Mr. Burdett's behavior that he continues to deny. Actually, he doesn't deny it. He just will not take responsibility for it. And we have seen no evidence of the terms of the settlement. He's the one who brought the settlement up at the last hearing. He knew to bring it. He knew to give it to me. He never has. We don't know anything about it. Same with the debts. No evidence of the debts when they were incurred. We have nothing. He has failed to provide it, and he knew that he needed to provide it. So my client is asking for, what's fair based on what she's been through. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'm going to take a short recess to come up with my decision. I'll be back in a few minutes to announce my ruling. All right, hang on. The only one we're waiting on is my court reporter, so she may have stepped away. Let me go check on her.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry, Gina.
Okay.
We're back on the record, and I'm here to render my decision. First, I find that I have subject matter jurisdiction and jurisdiction over the parties in this case. I'm taking judicial notice of the entire court's file. I find that all prerequisites for divorce have been met. I find there are grounds for divorce based on insupportability. Therefore, I'm granting the divorce. I'm also finding that all the following orders are in the best interest of the children. I am making a finding that there's a history or pattern of family violence and also mental health issues for the father. I am therefore ordering the mother as the sole managing conservator for the children, and I'm naming the father as the possessory conservator. I'm applying a geographical restriction for the mother to determine to make a determination regarding the primary residence of the children within Atascosa County or any county contiguous to Atascosa County. And
I just want to note, there was a debate not too long ago about whether a court could restrict where a parent lived. And that's what he's doing. He's telling her she can only live in the county she's living in, or the counties right around it, or come back to that county in Texas.
Otsego County, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Otsego County, New York, or any county contiguous to Otsego County, New York. I'm ordering no possession and access between the father and the children. I'm going to make the ruling that the mother may allow electronic communication if she believes that such communication is in the best interest of the children. I'm ordering child support at $174 a month beginning on the first day of August of 2023. I'm ordering the mother to maintain health insurance for the children through government medical assistance. And I'm ordering the father to reimburse $0 for the cost of the health insurance. I'm also stepping down the child support as the children emancipate. So it's going to go from $174 a month for three children, down to $145 a month for two children, and $116 a month for one child. Next, I'm making a finding that there is clear and convincing evidence that some portion of the settlement for personal injury is and the property purchased from that settlement is the husband's separate property. However, there is not a clear black and white line of how much of that was a personal injury settlement and how much of it was for lost wages or lost.
Do you know what's funny is if he would have put half the energy into listening and paying attention and figuring this out as he did, like being angry and frustrated and stewing over this, he probably could have got his settlement excluded from being split, or a good portion of it.
Earning potential. So I'm making the following division of property and debts, the best that I can, that I think is just, fair, and equitable to both the parties. But I want the parties to know that I can only divide the community assets of this case. I cannot divide the separate property of the husband. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much is the husband's separate property and how much is community property. But if I knew exactly how much that was the husband's separate property, then that would be 100% his. And then I would have to figure out how to divide the community asset portion of the property. Here, those lines are blurred. So I'm just sort of kind of making a guess and trying to make it fair that the husband gets what I think might be his separate property, and also dividing the rest of the property, what I think is just, fair, and equitable to both the husband and the wife.
Real quick, no, they talked about it earlier in the hearing. She can move into any county around the county she's in right now if she needs to move for work without getting court permission, is what that section was about. Or she can move back to Texas.
So I'm ordering the proceeds from the house. I'm ordering $15,000 to the wife from the proceeds of the house, and the remainder of the proceeds of the house will be awarded to the husband.
Ooh,
I'm ordering that the Escalade be awarded to the wife, and all other vehicles will be awarded to the husband. And I'm ordering the husband to execute any documents that he needs to execute to transfer the title of the Escalade from himself to his wife. I am ordering the property that was requested by the mother, which included everything that she asked for. And I might have missed something on this list here, but I heard about an orange tree in a pot, a lotus lamp, holiday decor, lily trees, pictures and cards, and the baby's things are going to be split 50-50. I'm not sure how all the baby stuff is going to get split 50-50, but I'm ordering that Mr. Burdett take that property and put it into a storage unit that is rented by Miss Santiago. And Miss Santiago, then you'll be responsible for the property once it's delivered to the storage unit. So you need to get on the ball here pretty quick and get a storage unit here in Atascosa County rented, so that way Mr. Burdett will have a place to put your property once the house closes. The taxes, I'm going to order that any refunds from the taxes be split 50-50. And I'm also ordering the parties to file those taxes within the next 90 days. I'm ordering all credit card debt in the spouse's name to be awarded to those spouses. So any credit card debt in Mr. Burdett's name will be his debt, and any credit card debt in the name of Miss Santiago will be her debt. I'm also heard something about the two cell phones. Ms. Santiago, you're going to have to return those cell phones to Mr. Burdett, and you get your own cell phone account. And I think that is everything. Ms. Harkins, is there anything that I did not rule on that you need me to make a ruling on?
Judge, any reimbursement for the mortgage
I
payments?
made that into the accounting for the $15,000 that she's getting from the proceeds of the house.
Okay, that's all I have then.
All right, Mr. Burdett, is there anything that I have not ruled on? You may unmute yourself and make a comment. Unmute yourself, please. Mr. Burdett. Mr. Burdett, I can't hear you.
it was nice though, wasn't it?
Sorry, I
All right.
forgot that I had it on mute.
All right, before you start talking, let me tell you, I've made my decision. So don't question my decision. But if there's anything
I'm not
missed,
questioning any decisions, sir.
I'm done
Go ahead.
listening to you.
No, I'm not questioning any decisions. I just wanted to ask a question in reference to the cell phones because you mandated that they be returned. In previous statements, Ms. Santiago had stated that the cell phone had been lost or something along those lines. So my question is, if she cannot furnish the actual physical property, would she be mandated to reimburse me for the actual dollar amount on the account? I just had a question.
Ms. Santiago, what's the deal with the phones?
I stated that in our first hearing that I had lost the phone.
Was there two cell phones?
No, he's talking about a watch. I have the watch, but as far as a cell phone, I can't pull it out of anywhere if I don't have it.
Okay, so you need to return the watch. As far as the phone goes, it's no longer a community asset, so it's just going to be, that's just lost, Mr. Burdett. I'm sorry about that.
Well, what about the dollar amount that's owed?
I'm not going to mess with that.
You came out good. Just
Okay,
walk away,
I
dude.
just wanted to ask, that's all. Okay, that's fine.
All right, so then I'm just amending my ruling that that Ms. Santiago needs to return the watch, and the phone is lost, so there'll be no orders regarding the phone.
He'll blow through
Okay.
this money on garbage, be happy for
All
a
right,
little
I'd
while.
like to
and
set
then-
this for order entry. And Ms. Harkins, I'd like to have, I know you're gonna have to draft this order, but I'd like to get it done before the closing of the house. That way there is an order that talks about the proceeds. And then at closing, then the title company can just cut checks to Mr. Burdett and cut a separate one to Ms. Santiago.
Yes, I understand, Judge.
Okay, so.
You'll give me a day, I'll get it done.
How about 2 weeks from today, which is July the 26th on a Zoom docket?
Yes.
But she has the kids.
We'll do July
And-
the 26th at 11 a.m.
She got something. She will build a better life.
Is that
with her
agreeable to you,
kids
Mr. Burdett?
Without the
Yeah.
toxic.
July 26th,
Environment.
11 a.m.
Right. Now, this is similar to when we did this for the temporary orders, but that hearing is not for me to reconsider anything. That hearing is just to make sure that the piece of paper matches what I had to say here today. And Ms. Harkins
sir.
already has your email, so she may draft this order before that date and send it to you and ask you to sign it. So if you sign it, you can just send it back and then I'll sign it without having a hearing.
Okay,
All right, that is it for today.
okay.
It's possible.
Thank you, Your
All
Honor.
right, good luck to everyone. God bless you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
What floating emoji? I don't know what a floating emoji is. Yeah. I think all of us do, but you can't force someone to get help that doesn't recognize that they have a problem. He will have to come to a point where he realizes he has a problem. And there's some people that go their entire life without realizing that and never get help and are miserable and live in that roller coaster of life, up and down struggle. So there's not much you can do. Carrie, I think your stuff's glitching. I don't know. I don't have an emoji. I don't have any options for emojis. Oh, I see emojis floating, but just like 3 of them float and then it goes away. Yes, it was very frustrating, but I hate situations like this, but at the same time, we need to see what happens in life because sometimes cotton mouth for my meds, sorry. Sometimes we get into a situation like this and we don't know what to do because we never knew this existed because we lived in our little bubble and we had no idea there was this horrible shit in the world, you know? So I don't think it's a bad thing. If they pay her straight from the title company, they will. I don't know about your floating emoji, but I will look into it for you, ma'am. Oh, it's Pizza's fault. Okay. All right. Anything else, peeps? Yeah, she has what really matters. She has a support system. She has a job. She has a car, and she has her kids. And she has it seems like for the most part her head together. So yeah, it kind of sucks, but I feel like she's getting something, and she has the opportunity to move forward and move on and move up. And that's what's important. So what more can, she really ask for? All right, everyone. Thank you for stopping by. It's been fun. I'm putting together some more stuff. For those of you that hung in this long, I may be doing a biography on one of your favorite law tubers. Maybe. Can't tell you though. Have a good night. I'll see you soon.